Chapter 1026 Dragon Speed Part 2. Man, and here I thought that my life was fucked up. You must be in love with your best friend, who's also your sister. Agitor laugh made the mountain under which his lair was located rumble. His lizard form shape-shifted into a humanoid body that retained the scales and the original mass. Yet now Agitor had legs, arms, and stood as tall as Faluel, reaching over 20 meters, 66 foot. Jump in. The Drake placed his huge palm in front of Lith, who was in too big of a rush to ask for an explanation, and just obeyed. I can't open a warp steps leading so far from here, and I doubt you have the time that I need to finish my business before I can give you a hand. Agitor nodded at several cauldrons and magic circles that formed his experiment. Life vision revealed that the Drake was somehow keeping them stable from a distance thanks to several tendrils of spirit magic. They linked the caster with its creations, allowing him to put the unstable energies in pause. Am I a bad person for wishing that Faluel will teach us this stuff, while our friends are probably risking their lives or worse? Solus couldn't take her eyes off the magical apparatus, whereas Lith remained more focused than a laser. Which leaves us with best next thing. I know you have wings, so you'd better use them. Dragon speed. A warp steps leading in the middle of nowhere appeared in midair at a dozen meters distance from the Drake. Don't you mean Godspeed? Lith asked. Nah, that's just an expression. Dragon speed is real. Agitor covered the hand he was holding Lith on with the other, and then started to spin on himself like a shot putter. Yet instead of being done after one spin, the Emperor Beast became faster and faster, to the point that when Lith flew through the dimensional corridor, he had already reached a speed so great that the protective aura surrounding the Skinwalker armor caught fire because of air resistance. That was before Lith activated his flight spell, before he shape-shifted into his wormling form and activated both air and fire fusion. Lith's flight spell, Soaring Hawk, not only allowed him to move at several hundreds of kilometers per hour (mph), but also created a wind blade in front of his path that protected his eyes and boosted his speed by generating a slipstream effect. Fire and air fusion, instead, gave his wings such power that each one of their flaps produced a thunderclap. Thanks to the Agitor's steps, Lith had skipped a couple of dozens of kilometers and started his flight at a breakneck speed. He looked like a black comet shrouded by flames that soared the night sky, coming closer to its destination with each passing second. Baba Yaga's hut, down in the mines now. Are you saying that I've been betrayed? Floria asked. No. I'm saying that you would be dead and buried if I didn't send Nandi to help you. The moment you get out of here, nothing will stop your enemies from achieving their goal. Baba Yaga/Nana replied. So this is blackmail. Freya was so angry that she overcame Baba Yaga's aura and managed to stand up. Either we submit or you throw us into the wolf's maw, correct? Blackmail is the coward's weapon. Nana shook her head. If you want to stay here until the danger is over, you'll be treated as honored guests. As I already said, I will not move a finger against you, nor will I force you to leave. Her answer shocked them all, incapable of understanding what Nana's endgame was. Yet even after the army leaves the area and so do the undead, you will still die, dear Floria. Do you remember what Nandi explained to you about awakening and the risks it implies for an already powerful mage? Nana asked, receiving a nod as an answer. That's what is going to happen to you. That's why I arranged our meeting here, down inside a powerful crystal mine. The pain you felt earlier is because your awakening is imminent, but with so many impurities, with such a weak human body, you'll never survive the process. Nana said, That's bullshit. I can heal any kind of wound, and even giving her my life force if that's necessary. Quilla stood up as well, refusing to believe such a preposterous lie. Heal. Baba Yaga laughed. Awakened can heal all kinds of wounds and replenish their vitality with just a breath, yet many of them die when their core evolves. Ask Nandi, if you don't believe me. She's right. The Minotaur grumbled. Even if your body survives the shock of such a sudden transformation, if your core starts to crack, there is no magic that can fix that. Without help, you have no chance of survival. The word awaken had no meaning for Freya, but its description fit what Floria and Quilla had seen Lith do while fighting the Odi and Kulla. Can really Lith be both an awakened and a hybrid? That sure would explain a lot. They thought in unison. If I accept, will you help me to awaken then? Floria asked. Wrong again. Why would you settle for something so trivial? There are thousands, if not maybe tens of thousands awakened on the entirety of Mogar. Why be one of the many when you can be so much more? Baba Yaga's eyes lit with mana and enthusiasm. Didn't you listen to what I said earlier? Hybrids get the best from both worlds. Think about the Master's Abomination monster hybrids, or the War People Human Emperor Beast hybrids. Awakening someone is easy at my level, but you are a unique piece. A priceless gem for my research. You are a self-awakened who has yet to complete the process, stuck in the middle between life and death. My children are flawed, broken if you prefer, and so is their blood core. That's why while an awakened can always turn into an undead, the opposite is such a rare occurrence that I can count those who have succeeded on one hand. My plan is to bestow you a blood core while your life force is both very unstable and easily manipulable. Unlike my former creations, your blood core will not be devised to replace the mana core, but to coexist with it. This way, once the procedure is over and you awaken, the blood core will lessen the strain on your body and use the massive amount of energy released to fix its imbalance. On top of that, the regenerative abilities and the toughness typical of the undead will guarantee your survival, no matter how violent the process is. Nana said, "You want to make me a hybrid?" Floria was flabbergasted. What is my role in this story? I thought you recruited me because you couldn't bear raising a hand against your children. Nandi's eyes were reduced to fiery slits as Baba Yaga's plan made less sense by the second. He didn't fight his original self in those caves. The returner abomination actually came from far away. Baba Yaga had recruited him with the promise of curing his condition in exchange for his help. They had moved to the crystal mines of Famar, and there she had tasked him to get rid of the undead that were digging out the crystals and keep the area safe while she prepared the field for their guests. Chapter 1027, The Secret Tower Part 1. Nandi had preferred to side with the old witch over the master's offer to join the organization that Tezca had delivered to him, because Baba Yaga proposed a one-time deal, whereas the master required long-lasting fealty for some crazy-ass plan. Now, however, the difference between the two was getting thinner by the second. That's only half your job, Nandi. Nana said, right now, you and Floria are two peas in a pod. Both of you have unstable bodies that only the powerful mana flow coming from the crystals keeps stable. The other half is to be my blueprint. I'll use you to replicate the master's handiwork, to know where and how to place my blood core inside Floria's body. This will allow me to succeed on the first try. I can't afford a trial and error process to understand how to make two different cores coexist. It would require many specimens, whereas Floria's condition is almost unique. Only once I'm sure that the procedure is complete will I awaken Floria and fix your problem. Nana said, wait, I thought you were the reason why my sister feels better. Are you saying it's only thanks to the crystal veins? Freya's anger turned into fear. No one, not even the guardians, can keep an awakening from happening once it starts. Yet I am the reason why your sister is still alive. I spread the gemstones for Belen to find. I sent Nandi to save you when you were doomed. I made sure that once Floria's constant use of magic triggered her awakening, she was inside the mines instead of dying an excruciating death. Baba Yaga wore a cold smile as she revealed how everyone had danced on the palm of her hand until that moment. I don't believe you. If it wasn't for your crazy scheme, the moment my sister felt unwell, we would have called someone who knows how to help her. Quilla remembered how Lith had saved, even protect her. She firmly believed that if he really wasn't awakened, he would know what to do, if not even already have several of his crazy contingency plans at the ready. Someone who? The Blackest Night. Baba Yaga chuckled. The runt is powerful indeed, but someone who has yet to live his first century lacks both the means and the knowledge to help Floria. No, child. I'm her only hope. A long, fearful silence fell into the room. Be they humans, emperor beasts, or returners abominations, they all felt like prisoners waiting for their own execution. Don't look at me like that. I'm no monster. Baba Yaga heard the children on their way back for dinner and was now sure that her guests had uncovered her real identity, so she turned into her mother form. She now looked like a beautiful woman in her 40s, with flaming red hair and emerald green eyes. Her voice was warm, and her body exuded a reassuring aura that made her hosts feel homesick, longing to reconnect with their respective parents. Even those who had long lost them or never known them. I'm Baba Yaga, the Red Mother, and I can be your parent as well. Quilla, Freya, once I'm done with Floria, I can do the same for you. There is a great power slumbering inside all of you, but you need my help to become so strong that no one will ever be able to threaten your happiness. Nandi, even after you are cured, there are countless things that I can learn from you and you can teach to your brethren. Stay with me. Help me to give birth to my children, and I promise you that I'll make everything I can to make so that your two natures merge into one, making you whole again. Hybrids are just the first steps towards new races, a necessary compromise until I find a way to harmonize different kinds of life forces. Morok, you're a hybrid no longer, but by studying the changes your life force has undergone, I can better understand the process that leads a hybrid's natures to clash and why they have to willingly choose between them instead of the strongest bloodline simply prevailing. Together, we can make Mogar better. We can be a family. Baba Yaga's voice was sweeter than honey and filled with promises of happiness. Her guest could feel that she wasn't lying. Such a powerful being could trap them with ease and use them as her guinea pigs whenever she wanted. No one paid attention to Erie's secret being revealed, not even Morok himself. They were all too busy considering her offer to care about the small stuff. Thanks, but no thanks. Morok replied first, snapping the others out of their reverie. If you succeed, I'll live forever, and that's really a long time for someone without a goal like me. I honestly don't care about Mogar, being powerful, or having a long life. Otherwise, instead of becoming a ranger, I would have focused on finding someone to awaken me. All I ever wanted was to be happy. I've seen the death and misery your children cause. I prefer a short, unhappy life to an eternity at your service. The only thing you have offered me is more time to be miserable. I'll take your offer for shelter, but once the storm is gone, I'm out of here. Nandi considered his words as well, but to him, Baba Yaga was still the best shot at a normal life. He was already immortal, and while the master was but a human, the Red Mother was eternal. If there was someone who could really find a way to merge his two cores into one, that was her. Floria didn't know what to say. She didn't want to die so young, yet the idea of spending centuries leeching off the life force of others terrified her. Freya and Quilla can leave any time they want, but the moment I step out of the mines, I'll die. I can feel my body being torn apart even while we speak. Maybe Quilla is right and Lith might be able to save me, but at what cost? His life force is already crippled, and I couldn't live knowing that he died to save me, she thought. Quilla and Freya had no desire to live forever. Their lives were already messed up as they were, and just as Morok had said, they had nothing to live for. The idea of seeing Journey and Orion die, of being forced to fake their own death and leave the Erna's household forever to keep others from noticing their unnatural longevity, was a thought scarier than death. Yet they didn't want to abandon their sister. If they left, she would be all alone, forever. The first and the only one of her kind to know how it felt to be truly alive, while all the others would be born already half dead. Floria would survive, but it was a meager consolation since she would also lose everything in the process. The hybrid children returned to the room, and with a wave of her hand, Baba Yaga set the table for everyone. Have you washed your hands properly? She asked while a flick of her wrist filled the plates with a delicious vegetable cream. The kids raised their hands in the air, and Baba Yaga checked them before turning to her guests. Chapter 1028, The Secret Tower Part 2. There's plenty of food for everyone. No need to brood on an empty stomach. Whatever you choose, you'll need strength. She pointed at the 6 empty chairs, one for each guest plus one for herself. Baba Yaga was about to sit at the head of the table when she perceived a low rumble in the atmosphere. He comes, she said as her eyes turned into blazing fires of mana. A wave of her hand created a double of the dining room, sending the children and the mother away to let them dine quietly. At the same time, the crone and her guests watched at the events unfolding on the surface through what looked like a surveillance mirror that had appeared in midair. He who? Floria asked, feeling hope for the first time since she had walked inside those damned mines. My daughter Dawn calls him the Blackest Night, while the beasts know him as the Scourge. I prefer calling things as I see them, so he's the Destroyer to me. You, however, I believe know him as Lithfurhen. Baba Yaga said. The flaming black meteor covered the last few kilometers, separating it from the mines in the blink of an eye, without ever slowing down. Even though it was clearly visible on the horizon, the people at the camp were too busy either trying to kill or survive to bother looking at the sky. I don't know what's going on down there, and I don't care. Thanks to his enhanced senses, Lith could see humans, thralls, and undead fighting together against regular humans. Solus, any trace of Floria and the others? None, but there's a mess down there. Their energy signature might be cloaked by one of Orion's rings, covered by their enemies, or worse. Are you sure you want to do it? Solus asked. I am. As long as no witness remains alive, we don't need to care about hiding anything of our strength. We can go all out and beyond. Fighting so close to such a powerful mana geyser is a unique opportunity and our best chance to save my friends. Solus slipped off his finger and reached the ground first, landing behind a small hill located a few hundreds meters away from the camp. Her drop point was exactly in the middle of the raging stream of world energy coming from below that gave birth to the crystal mines. She shape-shifted into her tower form and then warped away. Meanwhile, Lith crash-landed, opening a deep crater in the ground and killing all the nearby undead in the process. He was back in his human form and wore his archmage robe, wielding supreme authority over the soldiers who were miraculously unscathed from the impact. Floria Ernest, where is she? Not even the dimensional ceiling array could lessen the pressure that his seething anger exuded. Traitors and thralls quaked in their boots at Lith's sight, whereas the soldiers cried with joy. That together with life vision showing him traces of the blood cores the thralls bore, allowed Lith to sort friends from enemies. Seeing his hands move, the traitors pointed their weapons and wands against Lith. The formers hit his robe and cracked as the hands wielding them became numb from the impact. The latter released spells that were instantly overpowered by Lith's own, without buying their owners a single second before checkmate spears killed all those who had raised a hand against the archmage. Floria Ernest, where is she? Lith repeated the question to the soldier who was now clinging to his deep blue robe as if it was their lifeline. You need to help us. We almost died at the hands of the traitors and their undead allies, a young soldier said until spirit magic choked her along with the whining of all her comrades. I didn't ask for a report. Ernest, where? Lith would have gladly abandoned them to their fate, but roaming the entirety of the battlefield aimlessly was beyond stupid when there was intel laying everywhere. I don't know, she said amid tears when the pressure on her neck lessened and the other soldiers nodded like parrots with a seizure. They're supposed to be in the command tent. It's located that way. I haven't seen them since this morning, though. The young soldier pointed where the battle was at its fiercest, her voice begging to be spared despite her uselessness. Fine. Run away or die. The choice is yours. Lith threw them toward the path that his arrival had cleared. Both the humans and the undead nearby were too focused on him to care about the survivors, giving them a chance to escape. Is he insane? Nandi was flabbergasted. The army's reinforcements alone amount to 1,000 men, and the undead are at least half that number. No, he isn't. Baba Yaga couldn't understand Lith's behavior as well and looked at the surveillance mirror with confusion. There is great power in him, yet his life force is broken and he is but one man. Not even an awakened can walk away easily from such a battlefield, unless... Everyone turned toward her, but Baba Yaga never bothered finishing the sentence. She was too busy thinking back at Dawn's describing her defeat. Solus warped back above the crystal mines, and this time she stayed there. The sentries swarmed out of all the tower's doors and windows, looking for clues about their missing friends. The sentries were surveillance devices that looked like a sphere of glass the size of a basketball. They could scan everything that reflected on their surface and share with Solus all of her mystical senses, allowing them to identify someone based on their energy signature. Baba Yaga followed Solus's arrival on another surveillance device that only she could see. A life force coming from a building? That's a cursed object for sure. It matches Dawn's description and explains Varen's guts. A mage tower is the most powerful tool a mage can wish for. She knew it well since her hut was actually a mage tower shaped in accordance to its master's will. Yet he is too young to have crafted a tower, and I know them all. Then where the heck does that ruin come from? Baba Yaga had seen Menadian's tower more than once in the past, but she failed to recognize it nonetheless. Just like Solus had told Lith in the past, Together they had discovered things about the tower that Misanthropic herself was unaware of, but that was just an assumption due to Solas's ignorance about herself. By fusing a person with her tower, Misanthropic didn't create a cursed item so much as a human tower hybrid. Normal relics were incapable of growing outside their maker's design, but Solas was a living being, and so was now her tower half. The more Solas regained her powers and learned about magic, the more the tower could reshape itself according to the most recent magical development. They grew together because Awakened naturally refined their own bodies thanks to the mana coursing through them. Meanwhile, Lith darted towards the command tent while ignoring all the attacks aimed at him thanks to the combined protection of the boosted Skinwalker armor and his barrier ring that blocked the hits he failed to dodge. Ranger Verhan, how nice of you to join us. A somewhat familiar voice belonging to a somewhat familiar beanpole said. Chapter 1029 Tower Tier Part 1. Let that woman go. Tell me where Floria is, and I will kill you. Lith had no idea who the handsome man in front of him was, but he remembered Wyra well. She had helped him back in Xantia, and Freya would often speak fondly of her, considering the burly woman her closest aide. What kind of offer is that? Cowlion laughed while choking Wyra with one hand while piercing through her abdomen with the other. He enjoyed squeezing her guts to see the agony in her eyes. The vampire's blood coursing through his veins didn't just boost Callion's physical and magical prowess, it also amplified his predatory instincts. To him, humans were just cattle, small mice destined to be the plaything of the cat. That's Cowlion Nuragor, Floria's ex-boyfriend. Solas said via their mind link. The kindest deal I can cut you, and only because I'm in a rush. Lith replied while looking at the several undead jumping on him from every side, as if they moved in slow motion. His Tier 5 magic holding ring sparked, releasing both the final sunsets it held. A maelstrom of blue flames infused with so much darkness element to paint them black engulfed both Lith and his assailants. Yet the spell only spared his owner, burning everyone and everything else on its path until only cinders remained. Darkness magic was the bane of the undead and the only element that even mage slayers couldn't feed upon. After the sentry that now had joined him confirmed to Lith that there was no one worth saving in the vicinity, the blazing dome grew in size until it surrounded both Lith and Cowlion, isolating them from the chaos of the battlefield. How could I refuse such a generous offer? Cowlion broke Wyra's neck before throwing her tortured body at Lith along with a crushed golden pendant shaped like a lily. For a second, Lith froze at the sight of the present he had given Floria years ago. He had no idea it was just a replica identical down to the last detail that Cowlion had realized for the purpose of torturing Floria's parents. The damage the pendant had sustained made it believable the fact that it had lost its enchantment and Floria's imprint. Allow me to turn our deal into a real bargain. Cowlion threw Rotha's body right next to Wyra. Happy now? They are all dead, and soon you'll join them. Like Lith, Cowlion wasn't big on talking. He just needed time to weave his spells. He was still a fake mage, but thanks to the vampire blood stored in his second core, Cowlion could use both darkness and air magic in their true form, along with their fusion magic version. Seeing the destroyed replica almost drove Lith insane. Great Mage Nuragor had even imitated the impurities in the metal comprising the original pendant that Lith had spread through the flower to make it look more lifelike. Solas's nearby mage tower amplified the effects of his seething anger just like it did with all his other abilities. The sky darkened and the temperature dropped as his eyes turned into fiery slits burning with black mana. Yet he knew Wyra well. Even while the light in her eyes dimmed, Lith could see in them a silent plea for help, but not for herself. Even on the verge of death, Wyra performed her duty. We'll see. Lith touched Wyra and Rotha, using invigoration to restore them. Their flesh regrew. Their bones returned to their original condition as the breathing technique even replenished their vitality and mana. Yet they were still hungry. He's lying, Wyra said with the first breath of air she inhaled. They are still in the caves, alive. I can confirm. Floria's rune on your amulet is intact. Solas said. We'll deal with him. You go save them. Our lives don't matter. Please save our god. Rotha shielded Lith with his own body and attempted to push him away from the incoming Tier 4 darkness spell that Cowlion had unleashed while the Archmage healed them. Nuragor had no idea how Lith could have mended that many mortal wounds and still be able to stand, yet he didn't care. From such a close distance, dodging his black haze was impossible. It was a spell that Callion's sire had taught him that used both air and darkness magic to generate a black bolt of lightning that would split into two smaller bolts with each centimeter it moved forward. The newly generated bolts would split as well until all the space in front of the caster was turned into a dark mist. Rotha's attempt to push Lith away was akin to pushing a mountain uphill, whereas Litha's hands moved the two members of the Crystal Shield Guild behind him as if they were weightless. A lying traitor. I'm not going to take that filthy mana of yours. Lith refused to use Dominance or War's World Mirror ability and had a wall of black flames erupt from the dome to intercept black haze. Callion's shock grew once again. Keeping two Tier 5 spells active for that long was already a strenuous task, but doing it while also using those same spells to keep a small army of enemies at bay was supposed to have drained Litha's focus. That degree of mastery over two final sunsets at the same time was impossible, yet reality begged to differ. I didn't lie so much as stating an inevitable fact. My words have yet to turn into reality, but they will. Callien said as the metal rods stuck to his right leg assembled themselves to form his prized spear, Stormbreaker. Unlike Lith, he knew about the dimensional sealing array, so he had taken out of his dimensional item everything he needed, just like all Freya's men had done since day one of the mission. It was the reason why they had lasted so long. For years I practiced my spearsmanship until my skin broke and my hands bled, because I knew my worst opponents would be human. No matter what kind of monster Verhen is, with my enhanced body and the superior range of my weapon, a disarmed man has no chance of victory. Callien thought. War, sing your dirge for this fool. Lith extended his open hand, and the bastard sword appeared in a burst of emerald flames. Between Zedros's words and Xenograsch's practical demonstration, Lith had discovered the secret behind Omni Pockets. While regular dimensional items were the focus between their user and their storage space, Omni Pockets used their master's very life force as a conduit. Otherwise, distance or a simple dimensional sealing array would cancel the imprint over time. The use of life force also allowed the owner of an Omni Pocket to ignore the effects of arrays simply by expending a bit of their life force. Lith already knew to project it thanks to Origin Flames, so connecting the dots had only required some practice. Seeing the shattered necklace turned the angry blade into a grieving one. War broke free from its scabbard, and what looked like blood tears streamed down the magic crystals on its hilt. War almost moved on its own and struck at the tip of Stormbreaker, but instead of pushing it away, the grieving blade cut through metal as if it was butter. Callien quickly tried to step back, but Lith moved much faster. Chapter 1030 Tower Tier Part 2. The vampire blood couldn't keep up with Litha's perfect body refinement, and the gap in their respective mastery of fusion magic only made things worse. War's pain let the blade channel the energy coming from the tower to its utmost limit, so that with each slash another piece of the spear fell off. By the time Callien moved of a single step, almost a third of Stormbreaker was gone, and with it his range advantage over the sword. Callien looked at Litha's weapon in envy and desperation. Every time that War moved, it emitted a desperate howl that made the great mage's skin crawl. In a last-ditch effort, Callien unleashed all the spells he had at the ready only to see War devour them and then throw them back at him. Lith lunged so fast that he beat the spells to the punch, plunging the blade into Callien's heart. Lith twisted War while pulling it out, leaving behind a hole the size of a basketball. As the spells reached their target, he decapitated Callien, just to be safe. The dome of black flames disappeared as the constant onslaught from outside had exhausted the mana empowering the final sunsets. Wyra and Rotha wielded their wands against the swarm of opponents that surrounded them while Lith just snapped his fingers, making a dome of light surround and protect them from all attacks. Demon Manohar, a thrall said. The child of light is here. A vampire said. The Never Magus has come to our rescue. All the survivors burst into cheers, believing the battle to be already won. Sorry to disappoint those poor fellas. You called. Naurin landed right beside Lith, carrying with him all the people he had managed to save while searching for the Urna's girls. The Razar had a sentry following him as well, to both help to scout the battlefield and keep the communication with the rest of the group through Solus. Yes, my friends are in the caves. Protector is following their scent as we speak. Find and rescue all the people dressed like that. Lith pointed at Wyra and Rotha. The guild is free as life work. Losing them would destroy her. I can do that, but without dimensional magic, it's a fool errand. I can't protect that many. Naurind waved his left hand and released a volley of small beams of light against the crowd of enemies hammering at the dome. The humans died on the spot. The thrall became temporarily crippled, but for the undead, such wounds were but a minor annoyance. The arrays aren't going to be a problem much longer, but I need you to take them away fast. Once I go all out, everyone will die. Lith said while a focused beam of light coming out of Naurind's right hand mowed down the still, standing undead. The volley had removed the small fries, allowing him to focus solely on the real threats. Even with their uncanny regenerative abilities, having their bodies cut in half with most of their flesh vaporized killed most of the undead. Are you saying that wasn't your best? Rotha turned pale as a ghost. Believe me, you don't want to see my best. Otherwise, I'd have to kill you. Lith thought. Meanwhile, the red blur that Protector left on the battlefield while tearing apart the traitors and saving the soldiers, entered the caves as soon as the sentry with him reported Wyra's words. To fit inside the confined space, Protector had to shape-shift into his hybrid form, becoming visible for a split second. Where the heck did those guys come from? The more Nandi watched at the events shown on the surveillance mirror, the less the situation made sense. How did that Verhen arrive here so quickly, and how can he be that strong? Even if he started from the nearest gate and warped his way here with invigoration, he should be exhausted. The answer to the first question was that after taking root in the new mana geyser, Solus had gone back to Lucia for backup, bringing back with her all those ready at a second's notice. It's okay, Floria. Lith has come for, and that wolf thing is Protector. He is not our enemy. Freya reassured her sisters who had been surprised by the beastly figure wearing human clothes. How do you know? Quilla asked. He helped Lith and me back in Xantia. He's no hybrid, just a shape-shifting emperor beast. The cat was already out of the bag, making it pointless for Freya to keep the secret. They would have recognized his voice the moment they heard it. She thought. That's a relief. Floria said. You two go with Protector. I'm sorry, but I can't follow you. Baba Yaga was telling the truth earlier. The moment I step out of the mines, I'll probably die. Even with the thick world energy from the surrounding crystal veins and the help from Baba Yaga's tower, Floria needed sheer willpower to keep her awakening from triggering. You made a wise choice, child. Don't worry about the pain. As soon as you accept my offer, I'll stabilize your condition. The crone extended her hand to Floria to seal their deal. Seeing that the young woman refused to take it, Baba Yaga added, You'd better make your mind quickly because once the process starts, even I will be powerless to stop it, and I have no use for a regular awakened. Between his sense of smell and the sentry's mystical senses, following the traces of the Ernest sisters was a child's play for Protector. He could almost move to his top speed, slowing down only at crossroads. How are you holding up? Solus's condition worried Protector. I hate using air magic to speak, and the situation above requires my full focus. Does this answer your question? Her voice oozed irritation. Solus was on the first floor of the Mage Tower, in the middle of the Mirror Hall. Even though she wasn't directly taking part in the battle, she was the busiest member of the team. The sentries kept sending data that Solus had to sort, relaying only the important bits of information while also providing real-time status updates to the members of the team. At the same time, she was using her mind to weave true magic spells while her hands and mouth cast other spells non-stop. It was something that only someone skilled in both fake and true magic could do, allowing her to cast twice the spells and then pass them to Lith after amplifying their effects via the Master Mirror. This way, everyone could safely perform their respective task, and Lith could focus solely on the physical aspect of the fight, while Solus provided him with all the magic he needed. Thanks to Life Vision, Lith could see the very heart of the multiple magical formations that surrounded the camp. It was located under the command tent, where the soldier had pointed him at. Callion's death didn't deactivate them, and Lith had no time to search for the person holding the array's keystone. He bolted outside Naurind's dome, dragging with spirit magic all the enemies he met on the way to his destination. The barrier ring's pseudo-core was almost overloaded from the earlier strain, so Lith could use some meat shields to intercept incoming spells aimed at him. The moment he reached the center of the arrays, Lith unleashed his Tier Tower spell, Raging Nova. Chapter 1031 Floria's Choice Part 1. The tower amplified both Lith's and Solus's abilities, so they had created the Nova series of spells that exploited the tremendous might that tapping into a mana geyser bestowed upon them. Raging Nova was the evolved version of the Tier 5 spell, Raging Sun. Raging Sun was a combination of fire and earth magic which generated a powerful explosion along with flames so hot that they could melt stone. Its effects were akin to a volcanic eruption. Raging Nova added a third element, air, to both expand the area of effect of the explosion and raise the temperature of the spell. White flames engulfed an area of over 100 meters, 330 feet, around Lith, destroying the focus point of the arrays along with everything else in their path. The undead were resistant, not immune to the elements, and Raging Nova was more than they could take. Creatures like vampires or ghouls died on the spot with their bodies torn apart and burned so fast that they were unable to regenerate. The ability to move their weak point at will was useless against an attack that engulfed them from head to toe. Even mage slayers couldn't resist Lith's spell. The orange mist that comprised their bodies could feed upon the three elements, but their weapons couldn't do the same. The intense heat melted the enchanted relics that made the other half of a mage slayer's physical body, damaging them beyond repair and dooming their masters. Lith remained unscathed only because he cast the spell on himself and released it from his own skin. That way, he was at the epicenter of Raging Nova, and the shockwaves generated by the explosion couldn't affect him. With the arrays gone, Naurant and Tista could evacuate the camp quickly by using their respective sentry to open warp gates leading far away from the battlefield. "Quick, everything is going to blow," Tista said while exploiting the terror spreading among the enemy ranks to restore her strength with invigoration. "Good gods, little brother, how could you kill so many without a second thought? There might have been survivors or prisoners." She had already expressed her worries to Solus, who had promptly dismissed them. Tista knew that the moment Lith would cast his next spell, she would be forced to abandon anyone left. To protect his secret, Lith couldn't risk leaving witnesses alive. Meanwhile, Protector had finally reached Baba Yaga's hut. The place was surrounded by so many defensive arrays that he didn't dare come close to it, and called the Urnas from a distance. "Freya, Floria, Quilla, it's me, Protector. Are you in there?" he said. "Thank the gods you're here. You're an awakened, correct?" Freya ran out of the house to not be forced to yell. "Then if I tell you that Floria is about to awaken and that it might kill her, do my words make sense to you?" Her questions received just a nod for an answer. "Quilla and I are fine, but the moment Floria leaves the mind, she dies." "Care to elaborate?" Protector asked while tapping on the sentry to make sure that Solus listened as well. Freya explained to them everything Baba Yaga had said about Floria's condition and the reason why the awakening process had yet to trigger. "This wasn't in the plan. Is it good or bad news?" Protector said to the glass sphere, making Freya wonder if that day could get any crazier. "Great news, actually," the glass sphere replied, giving Freya her answer. "Remain on standby while I make a few modifications to the heart." "Copy that," Protector said. "Hey, that wasn't Camilla's voice. Who was that?" Freya felt like she was going insane as Moger made less sense by the second. Lith was a hybrid and an awakened with crazy-ass powers she had never seen before. Her sister was about to join the club, and that annoying prick Eerie, of whom Quilla had complained about for months, wasn't human, but something in disguise. To make matters even more confusing, among Lith's allies there had to be Minohar II and an unknown girl. "You're about to find out. Go call your sisters. We need to be ready to move at a second's notice. I don't know who that hut belongs to, but I'm sure I don't want to stay here a moment longer than necessary." Protector said. "That makes the two of us," Freya said before returning inside. "Don't worry, sis. The bad news is that jerk of Lith knew about your condition. The good news is that he prepared for it." His assistant, partner, Solus corrected Freya. "What she said says that they can help you." Freya said. "Help how?" "He's outside fighting, and we can't warp. Even with the arrays gone, the crystals will blow if we attempt to open a dimensional tunnel leading to the surface." Floria wanted to believe those words, but reason begged to differ. I've already taken that into account. Solus's voice was magically amplified, allowing the Ernest to hear her from a distance. I'll open the steps at the closest safe point. You blink to Protector and he'll carry you to destination in a matter of seconds. She's right. I can vouch for Protector. He's the fastest man I've ever seen. Freya answered Floria's silent question. I know what I would do, but the choice is not up to me. The life is yours, and whatever you decide to do, I'll be by your side. Floria looked at Baba Yaga and her still extended hand before saying, Thanks for your offer, Lady Yaga, but future of Mogar or not, being forced to feed upon humans and becoming as good as sterile is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Quilla and Freya left the hut, following Protector's directions to reach the location of the warp steps on their own. Morak tried to follow them, but Ryman stopped him in his tracks. Whoever you are, you're not on the list. Protector said. That's rude, man. Lith and I fought together in Kulla. We shared our secrets and whatnot. Heck, I saved his girlfriend, my own, and maybe even yours. Morak pointed at Floria, Quilla, and Freya in this order. I'm not his girlfriend. The three Ernas said in unison. And I'm a married man with 3 children. Say that in front of my wife, and I swear that I'll kill you before she can kill me. Protector snarled. Celio wasn't the jealous type, but hearing allegations about him spending too much time with a young woman as pretty as Freya might compromise their bond of trust and in turn Morak's life expectancy. But not on the list. Everything is ready on my side. Solus cut Morak short, and Floria blinked in Protector's arms, who disappeared as if he had never been there. Seriously? How many women does Lith need to be happy? Can't he leave some to the rest of us? I mean, there's you, the army chick, the other army chick, the hot mercenary chick. Morak's attempt to bargain with the sentry failed when it popped out of existence. Solus couldn't move the sentry as fast as Protector, but rather than listening to the tyrant's rambling, she dispelled the construct. Man, I really hope that Archon Ernas keeps her word and sets me up for a date with Quilla. Otherwise, I just wasted months of my life. Chapter 1032 Floria's Choice Part 2. Morak left for the surface on foot, making both Baba Yaga and Nandi wonder how could he have such a narrow vision of life. I can't believe he didn't even bother to remember the names of Quilla's sisters. It's beyond rude, and if he keeps up like that, their first date will be short and the last. Baba Yaga said, I can't believe you're still thinking about that moron while your precious project walks away. Nandi blurted out, What about your hybrids? And more importantly, what about me? I can't keep them against their will. All I want is to make my children happy. Starting a new family over the misery of my own firstborn would doom my project to failure and is against all I ever worked for. Baba Yaga replied, No matter what you think, I'm not a tyrant, but a mother. Even when my children go against my wishes, I don't put them in jail until they obey. That's not love, that's madness. Even without Floria, I have already collected a lot of data about twin cores thanks to your prolonged stay in my home. For that, you have my gratitude. Compared to the Minotaur, the crone was so short that she could barely reach his chest. Baba Yaga touched his thigh, and Nandi felt as if his body was being turned inside out. Multiple deep wounds opened and black blood streamed from all his orifices. He didn't experience such an intense pain ever since his mana core had crumbled, turning him into an abomination. Yet it only lasted a second. Nandi gasped for air, realizing that the agony had brought him on all four. He checked his body and discovered that not only it had finally evolved, but also there were no wounds left. The constant need to contain the chaos energy was gone, and it had been replaced by several small violet crystals that had appeared on his forehead, chest, and hands. What did you do to me? He said. What you asked me since the day we met. Baba Yaga replied. I fixed you. What blocked your growth was your own strength. Both of your natures were strong enough to live on their own. That's why they never merged into one. You needed an opponent strong enough to put you in a life or death situation to evolve. I forced your two sides to choose between fighting together against me and survive or continuing their squabble and die. Don't worry about the crystals. They are not weak points, but part of your own body. An orc without mana gemstones is crippled. That's why before their fall, orcs were capable of turning their flesh and blood into crystals. Baba Yaga caressed the Minotaur's head that was now at her eye level with a kindness Nandi had never experienced, not even from his own mother. Even if you are not an undead, you have lived under my roof, eaten my cooking, and shared your worries with me long enough to be one of my children. Now you've been reborn through me, and that's a bond one cannot forget. Wherever you go, whatever happens to you, this will always be your home. She touched his forehead, bestowing upon Nandi the spell that allowed all of her firstborns to always know where to find her. Now you can go see the world again, like you always wanted. His head alone was almost bigger than she was, but Baba Yaga embraced it nonetheless. Before you go, allow me to give you one last piece of advice. Once you are done having fun, go find the Master. They seem to be a smart human, and the other monster abomination hybrids are your siblings. The Master can make you whole again while you're kind, can help you overcome your blood madness. The organization is the other half of your family, and families stick together. The violence of Nandi's inner turmoil kept him from standing up. Not even getting free from the insatiable hunger that plagued abominations after absorbing his original self had been such an intense feeling. Nandi had always considered his condition as a punishment for all the atrocities his original self had committed as an emperor beast first and an abomination later. He had believed that Baba Yaga was no better and that she would screw him over as soon as she got what she wanted. Yet while he had been wary of her and treated her as an enemy, Baba Yaga had grown fond of him. She had freed him from the shackles of his curse and was now sending him off with her blessings. Warm tears streamed down his eyes while a feeling long forgotten ravaged the Minotaur's withered heart. "Thanks, Mother." Nandi returned her embrace, careful of not hurting the small figure between his hulking arms, even though his reason told him that putting a scratch on her was an impossible feat. Meanwhile, Quilla and Freya entered the tower a split second before Protector arrived with their sister in his arms. Floria was still clenching her teeth, waiting for the fits of pain, when she realized they would never come. The Ernest sisters looked in awe at the mirror hall that was now as big as Baba Yaga's living room. They could feel that each one of the mirrors was actually an enchanted item, and the mana in the hall was so dense that it made their body hair stand up. Yet nothing could compare with the vision of the feminine humanoid figure floating in the middle of the room. It looked like a short woman, about 1.54 meters, 5 feet 1 inch, tall, made of golden energy, and with long golden hair that floated in the air as if she was underwater. Yet what truly shocked the Ernest sister was the fact that the golden woman wore a skinwalker armor identical to Litha's, and that the voice they had heard before belonged to her. "Nice to finally meet you all. I'm Solus. Don't worry about your awakening. Floria, Lith has fucked me sideways." "No, you don't," she said as the image in the mirror in front of Solus required her full focus. Solus's voice was actually warm and kind. What creeped the girls out was that its tempo, inflection, and even the way she spoke sounded like a female Lith. They had no idea that the two of them had spent so much time in each other's head to be as one. "What is that? Is Lith all right?" Tista had returned to give her friends all the explanations they might need, while Solus cast spells non-stop, but the scene on the mirror left Tista no time for pleasantries. After the effects of Raging Nova had faded, the main force of the undead and the traitors had surrounded Lith from every side. "Verhen is but one man, and after that spell, he must have run out of mana," Captain Lotta said. "Today is our day. Verhen first, and the Urnas later. Fire at will." The barrage of spells coming at him was so thick that it covered the sky, eclipsing the moon and the stars. Against a single enemy, filling the battlefield with spells was a common strategy that made it impossible for the target to both dodge or blink. Lith snapped his fingers, conjuring both the darkness and the air-sealing array from the tower's heart around himself. Most of the incoming spells disappeared, and among those left, only a handful was actually aimed at him. Chapter 1033 Nova Onslaught Part 1. War drew the stray spells to itself and fed upon them, absorbing their elemental energies to refill its pseudo-core. The blade had no idea Floria was alive, and the feelings Orion had imbued in the weapon were driving it crazy with grief. War would have done anything to avenge its little flower. "Stop wasting your spells and engage him in close quarters," Captain Lotta said. "The fool has forgotten that arrays work both ways. He can't use magic as well." Lith charged at the tidal wave of bodies to not offer an easy target to spells belonging to the still available elements, while he focused on the only spell he had at the ready. A split second before being swallowed by the living tide, he dispelled the arrays and unleashed Nova Sunset. It was the tower version of Final Sunset that, like the original, used fire and air, but it was much stronger due to the power-amplifying effect of the Master Mirror and added the air element to the mix. A tornado comprised of black flames appeared around Lith, engulfing anyone who tried to get close to him. Even though the blazing pillar didn't reach the sky, with its over 30 meters, 100 feet, of height, it was a majestic sight to behold. Some blinked past the spinning firewalls, only to meet their end due to another kind of fire. Lith had assumed his wormling form and filled the space inside the tornado with origin flames that were now under War's control. Origin flames didn't discriminate, burning humans and undead alike despite their natural resistance to the elements. A 3-elemental tier 5 spell of that magnitude. Quilla was flabbergasted. If they existed, I would think that's a tier 6 spell. Still, it's not enough, so if you can shut up and let me focus, I would greatly appreciate it. Solas's snarl resembled Lith so closely that Quilla shuddered. The way Solas talked, the way she moved her body to channel the mana, and even the way she chanted her spells non-stop made the earnest sisters wonder what kind of relationship existed between her and Lith. Solas was now holding an energy replica of War, moving in sync with Lith to help him control the massive amount of world energy that flooded into him. Yet all that the others could see was a puppeteer moving the strings of the man on the other side of the mirror. "If you don't come at me, then I'll come at you," Lith said as he raised War in the air, using domination over his own spell. The combined willpower of Lith, Solas, and War reshaped the blazing tornado into a giant replica of the angry blade. Lith performed a horizontal slash that cut deep through the enemy lines, mowing down dozens of people with a single swing of War. Lith had halved Nova Sunset's range by compressing its energies to the point that even barrier amulets were shattered and their wielders killed on impact. Every single one of his attacks left only ashes on its wake, turning the enemy's superior numbers into a disadvantage. Traitors and undead tried to put some distance between them and Lith, to once again drown him in spells now that the arrays were gone. "You will not escape." Lith unleashed Checkmate Nova, conjuring in midair so many black pillars of ice that they blotted the night sky. The evolved version of Checkmate's spears used the ice, darkness, and air elements to bring a calamity from the skies. The black spears swarmed the field, striking where the enemies tried to regroup. Their size didn't make them more deadly. Quite the contrary, dodging such a huge projectile was easy for any undead. Unfortunately for them, the moment a black spear struck something, the air element made them detonate into countless smaller spears that relentlessly chased their target. With the combined effect of the black giant sword and the piercing hail, the battlefield quickly turned into a graveyard, and only the strongest among the enemies remained. Lith dispelled Nova Sunset and held War vertically, with his right hand on the grip that pointed at the sky now covered by roaring clouds, and his left placed on the blade that pointed at the ground that shook with growing intensity. "Time to finish this," he thought. Just like light and darkness, air and earth are two sides of the same coin. Only those who realize this are their rulers. Nova Mjolnir. Solas mirrored Lith's movements as he moved both hands to the grip. The thundercloud above generated a bolt of lightning that struck War a split second before Lith plunged it into the ground. Nova Mjolnir created magnetite paths that preserved the electricity, allowing it to strike at its marks with its full force. Rock spikes impaled the survivors and acted like lightning rods, drawing the storm upon them so that not a single thunderbolt missed its target. The magnetite circuit allowed each natural lightning to strike at all the victims of Nova Mjolnir at the same time, dealing so much damage that not even immortal bodies could survive. When the corpse of the last enemy faded, so did the thunderstorm. Under the moonlight, Lith used both his mystical senses and the sentries to make sure that no witnesses remained. Only once Solas confirmed to him that he was the only living being for hundreds of meters did Lith put War at his hip. The blood scabbard had never been so thick, yet it could barely contain the fury of the grieving blade. Lith couldn't put it away because inside the pocket dimension time was still. The blade wouldn't be able to recharge its mana crystals, nor to heal the stress that both its pseudo-cores and the adamant had sustained by wielding tremendous amounts of mana the fight had required. Status report, Lith said after warping to the mirror hall. It's a long story, Freya attempted to say, but Lith gestured her to stop. His dark eyes turned golden, while Solas's golden eyes turned dark as they shared through their mind link their most recent memories. I'm sorry, Freya, but there's not a moment to waste, so we'll make this quick. Guys, this is Solas. She's my bright side as much as I'm her dark side. She already knows all of you, so introductions are pointless. Lith said, Nice to meet you. I've been waiting years for this moment. Solas said with a smile so radiant that definitely didn't belong to Lith. To the Urnas, her enthusiasm made even less sense than his words. Freya, Naurin saved 8 members of the Crystal Shield, Wyra and Ratha included. How many active members of the guild did you bring with you? Lith waved his hand, and on the mirror appeared the image of a humanoid scaled armadillo surrounded by dozens of people. All 15 of them. Freya's eyes became watery at the sight of how few people had survived. I'm really sorry for your loss. Solas wanted to hug Freya, but being their first real meeting, it would have been inappropriate. I've prioritized. Sorry, Solas. No time for condolences either. Lith cut her short. Floria, do you know what's happening to you? At her sight, War squealed with joy and went silent. Dad, Floria blurted out, recognizing Orion's typical reaction whenever they met after a long time. I mean, yes, Lith. I know everything about Awaken Like Us. Chapter 1034 Nova Onslaught Part 2. Very well. First, allow me to say how sorry I am. Lith took both of her hands in his while looking Floria in the eyes. I never meant to involve you in the mess that is my life. That's why I tried to push you away over and over back when we were at the White Griffin. Your persistence made me into a better man, but it also put you at great risk. I prepared for years for this moment, hoping that it would never come, but here we are. I can't guarantee your survival, only that I will do everything in my power to save you. The procedure could last long, but it will surely be agonizing. I can't anesthetize you and spare you the pain because, even though I can assist you, it will be your willpower to tip the scale between life and death. It's more pain than most men experience their whole life, so I would understand if you choose an easier way out. Lith said, Most men. Floria chuckled at the distinction. For some reason, the tower felt like home. She could feel Lith even in the air she breathed and in the ground she stood upon. The pain in her abdomen was gone, and so was the fear that she had felt while in Baba Yaga's hut. Indeed, based on the women I helped during my career, each breakthrough is as painful as giving birth, but yours will be like Rena with her triplets. Lith replied, I guess it's a pain you're used to. Floria said, Me, Tista, Protector, and a lot of other people I want you to meet. Lith said, What would you do in my shoes? I don't know. I can only tell you that, in my shoes, I'm not ready to lose you. That makes the two of us. Floria chuckled. I don't want to die. Not here. Not now. Not like this. Then you'd better drink this. Lith took out 2 potions. One was a purple potion filled with nutrients for Floria, and the other was a red top grade tonic for himself. His body was battered from the mana abuse, and he needed to spare as much invigoration as he could for the procedure. Even with the tower further boosting his recovery abilities, Lith needed a nap to return to his peak condition, but doing it would doom Floria. Why the heck did you shut me and Freya up while you can give a speech? Solas pouted. Because the mental state of the patient is vital for the success of every procedure, and because it's Floria's life that is at stake. She deserves to know everything she needs before making such an important decision. Lith replied, Sorry guys, what did I miss? Naurin warped back after finishing to treat all those in critical conditions. Nothing much. Protector replied. Just Lith being cheesy instead of the usual sourpuss. Naurin knew there was a joke somewhere, but they didn't know each other for long enough that the Razar could either understand it or laugh at it. He felt too indebted to Lith for introducing Protector to him and giving him a share of the silver mines. Both Naurin and Protector shape-shifted back into their human form, making the girls flinch. Wait, all this talk about hybrid confuses me to no end. What are you exactly? Quilla said. It's complicated, but the short version is that I'm a purebred emperor beast. Naurin is one of the War people, a hybrid from birth, while Lith was born a human and became a hybrid later. Protector replied, I didn't understand anything aside from you being an emperor beast. Quilla clenched her temples. Now, however, I'm only worried about Floria. Why didn't she start awakening, and when will you start her treatment? It didn't start because thanks to our mage tower, we can produce a mana pressure even above that of the mines. A snap of Litha's fingers revealed a magic circle surrounding Floria. It was identical to those used by Forge Masters to accumulate the world energy except for its lack of runes and the fact that it was perfectly stable. Solus had kept it invisible until that point because, even though she could move the boundaries of the circle at will, if Floria noticed how small was her breathing space, she might have panicked. As for the treatment, we'll start right now. Another snap, and everyone moved to the heart of the tower, the control room for the arrays. While Lith was talking, Naurand was politely introducing himself to the Urnas as Celia had taught him. He was a man in his mid-20s, about 1.84 meters, 6 foot, tall, with a lean and toned body. He had raven black hair, green eyes, and a perfectly shaven face. His bronze skin was a clear sign that he was a native of the Blood Desert. Protector was a good-looking man, but he was too tall and rough-looking for Freya's taste, whereas Naurand acted awkwardly, but in a cute manner. He stuttered the same way with her, Floria, and Quilla, making Freya feel treated like a person for once. Wow, he isn't staring nor spouting inappropriate compliments. I wonder why. Her question found its answer when she noticed how familiar he was with Tista, almost at the same time when Litha's words hit her like a freight train. What do you mean, Mage Tower? The three Urnas said in unison with their eyes almost popping out. That day, legends and reality kept intertwining in front of their eyes. After meeting Baba Yaga, discovering about hybrids, awakening, seeing Lith single-handedly exterminate 2 armies, and now discovering to be inside one of the fabled mage towers, their knees buckled. Luckily for them, Solus had seats to spare and had them appear right under their falling asses. Who do you think I am? A god? I managed to fight like that only because Solus backed me up. Besides, why do you act so surprised? According to Solus's readings, the hut was a mage tower as well, so mine is the second you visit today. Lith replied. He kept his eyes closed while taking deep breaths, not to use invigoration, but to savor the energy that thanks to the tower coursed through him and slowly rejuvenated his body. The Urnas became so pale that Solus worried they might faint at any moment. She conjured a cup of hot tea spiked with a bit of liquor and a lot of relaxing herbs for each one of them. Please, drink this, it should help. Solus said. Floria, you can't faint, no matter what. Otherwise, all we've done so far will be for naught. Floria complied, letting the hot beverage remove the chill of death from her bones, and the herbs soothe her nerves. Wait a second. Why is your speaking pattern so similar, and what's with all those we? She asked. We'll have plenty of time for explanations during the first phases of the procedure. Now I'll guide you step by step so that you can understand what's happening and not panic. Okay, Lith said. Okay. Floria finished her beverage in one gulp before hugging her sisters, and then Lith to find the necessary courage to start the procedure. She trusted him would make her survive, but the perspective of entering a world of pain that might last hours was far from alluring. Chapter 1035 The Price of Awakening Part 1. One more thing. You should strip, Lith said. Say what? Floria blushed from head to toes, and so did Naurand. The Skinwalker armor can shape-shift, but your body is about to get turned inside out, then unraveled and woven back multiple times so fast that the armor can't keep up. Taking your clothes off will spare you a lot of pain and make the body refining easier. And you will watch? Like the whole time? Floria asked. I'm a healer. Lith felt slightly offended. I helped Tista awaken, I've treated countless women, and I've seen you naked in the past, so why so shy? What about them? She pointed at the others. Fair point. Lith brought everyone but Floria back to the mirror hall. Hey, it's nothing we haven't seen countless times, and I want to make sure Floria is all right. Quilla said. Then, you should ask her permission. Otherwise, only Solus and I will keep Floria company. Lith said. Can I at least keep my panties? Floria was already ashamed for not needing a bra, and the idea of Lith drawing comparisons with his girlfriend didn't excite her much. Even though she was now alone, Floria still blushed up to her ears. No, Lith replied with the flat tone he would have used if someone had just asked him if he wanted milk in his tea. Now listen well, because I'm about to explain the cause of your condition and how we're going to fix it. Floria cursed and did as instructed. A normal human body is filled with what I call impurities. They are a double-edged sword since the body produces them to protect itself from the power of the mana core at the cost of serious side effects. Lith said, on one hand, impurities hinder a person's body development and enhance the signs of aging, but on the other hand, they are a natural inhibitor of the mana flow. Without them, non-awakened people would die the moment their bodies are not strong enough to bear the power of their own cores. When someone gets close to self-awakening, impurities move toward the mana core because the closer they get, the more effective they are, and once the core rejects the impurities, the body is forced to evolve or die. Back when Tista was a kid, I removed her impurities to improve her health. Because of that, while she grew up, the lack of impurities made her develop a body that's similar to that of an awakened and doesn't need to break down as much as a normal person's would to be refined. At the same time, however, because she has too few impurities, the process is more violent and quick than it should, so Tista risked her life as well when she awakened, and so does every time her core evolves. To help her survive her next breakthrough, we hurt her body on purpose, to force it to produce more impurities that will slow down the destruction process enough for the natural regeneration to keep up as it happens for me. Floria, you and Tista are two sides of the same coin. You have the opposite problem. You have too many impurities and your body is too imperfect. Without my help, your mana core will produce mana waves so strong that they will expel your organs along with the impurities, causing your death. During Phase 1, we will remove part of your impurities and force your body to rearrange itself enough so that it won't break beyond repair when the awakening process reaches full speed. Is it clear? Lith asked. So that's why all women in your house are so gorgeous? Do you know how insecure they made me feel whenever I visited your home? Floria sounded a bit pissed off. Tista sure benefited from it a lot, but Mom is gifted by nature, and so is Rena. Mom was fully developed when I started the treatments, so they just enhanced her natural beauty, just like when your mother underwent cosmetic magic. Rena had already started her growth spurt, so my treatments had limited effects. The fact that Floria managed to not focus on her impending death or the incoming shitload of pain made Lith glad. Now I'm about to lower the mana pressure around your body. It will hurt quite a bit, and it will allow me to start your awakening in a controlled way. I'm going to let the mana waves slowly affect your body, and I'll help them by removing the excess impurities when necessary. Are you ready? I'll never be ready. Just start. Floria almost regretted sending everyone away. The tower's heart was empty, making her feel scared and alone. The light of the magic circle started to progressively dim, and Floria could feel again the fire that burned within her. The pain radiated from the area between her navel and stomach to the entirety of her body, as if someone added hot oil to her blood. Floria could still control herself by clenching her teeth. Her almost deep blue mana core sent one burst of mana after the other, trying to get free from the impurities that prevented it from further evolving. Floria's body was like a pressure cooker on the verge of exploding, but the external counter-pressure of the magic circle had kept it stable until that moment. Lith followed the waves with invigoration and used his breathing technique to thin the biggest clots on their path until the impurities started to move along with the mana. Floria's pain intensified and tar-black patches covered her tan skin, making her look like a sickly Dalmatian. Is this normal? Can someone please keep me company? She said while watching the patches grow until her skin turned pitch black. Yes to both your questions. Lith sat on a chair and drank another tonic. Quilla and Solus appeared beside Floria, holding her hands to reassure her. Don't worry. Those are just the impurities leaving your body. It means everything is going according to plan, Solus said. Meanwhile, in the mirror hall, Freya was outraged by Litha's composure and wanted to beat the crap out of him. How can you be so calm while Floria is risking her life? You sit here and drink your potions as if it's just another day's work. Don't you have a heart? She asked. What do you expect me to do? To scream around in panic or to run in circles like a headless chicken? Lith replied, Of course I'm scared. I didn't cross half a kingdom and fight 2 armies for fun. Yet doing that had a price, and now I need to focus on recovering before things get serious. Floria is already scared, and losing our cool will not do her any good. I need to keep calm and regain my strength, or she will die. Lith had another potion appear beside Floria. Quilla helped her to remove the cork and to drink it. What is this pain? Floria asked. As the impurities get removed, your body reshapes itself in a manner suitable to contain the powerful mana flow that now floods your system. The pain comes from the constant destruction and regeneration process you're experiencing. The potions will provide you with the nutrients you need, and the first phase will allow your body to evolve at a Cyan core level without putting too much stress on your organs. Lith explained. Chapter 1036 The Price of Awakening Part 2. Are you keeping an eye on me? A pool of tar-like substance had formed below Floria. Its stench was so terrible that it almost made the girls faint. Always. Don't worry. I'm the only one that can see in there due to my bond with Solus. I'm sorry. Freya sighed. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. I know that even though you two are no longer together, you care for Floria. It's just that I feel so helpless and scared that my mouth ran wild. There's no need to apologize. I would feel the same if I didn't have years to prepare for this moment. Also, I didn't let Floria hear your earlier outburst, so we can pretend it never happened. Lith held her hand, and Freya finally let the emotions from that horrible day overwhelm her. She had almost been killed by the ghouls, met Baba Yaga, been betrayed by the army. Half of her guildmates were dead, and now she risked losing one of the most important people of her life. The events transpired in the last few hours were a burden too great for anyone to bear. Freya forced Lith to stand up and hugged him as tight as she could, losing herself in his apparently endless strength as she had done during the Academy's second exam. Thanks. Camilla is a lucky woman. Freya suddenly felt so weak that she had to sit down. By the way, does she know about all this, and what is your relationship with Solus exactly? Since I don't know how long will it take to end Phase 1, I might as well tell you everything. Floria could use a distraction to endure her pain. Lith said. Much appreciated, thanks. Floria said. Hearing the voices of her sisters, Solus, and Lith helped her to not think too much about the passing of time. Lith couldn't tell them about his rebirth, so he moved his self-awakening at 4 years of age and started from there. He told them how he had used his powers to hunt, to treat Tista's symptoms, and how he had met Solus and Protector in the same day. I still remember that awful sound stinging my poor ears and the obnoxious runt trying to kill me. Protector said with nostalgia. I'm the one who gave him the name Scourge, you know? Lith then told them all that had happened until Solus had assumed her tower form for the first time. Wait, so she is the tower? Floria was flabbergasted. She's much more than that. Solus is always by my side in her ring form, and until a while ago, we shared one mind and one body. I'm not going to lie, a good chunk of my academic success is thanks to her. Lith said. We studied everything together. Solus nodded. Also, I'm not a tower. I'm a hybrid as well. Yet unlike anyone else, I'm a human artifact hybrid. Without my human half, I would be just another cursed object, like Dawn or the Black Star. The implications of such words were hard for everyone, but they were much worse for Floria. She remembered how Lith never took off the stone ring, not even while in his sickbed after saving Protector's life. Just how much has Lith shared with Solus, and how big of a role did she play in our relationship, breakup included? Floria thought as a searing wave of pain ravaged her body. Her agony had become so intense that she couldn't hold back the screams anymore. What's going on? Freya asked. We've entered Phase 2. Due to the changes, Floria's body has expelled most of the impurities, and without their interference, the awakening process is going too fast. Lith said. He took a deep scan of Floria's condition, allowing Solus to adjust the mana output of the magic circle that surrounded their friend until they found a new balance. Solus called upon both the world energy coming from the mana geyser and that from the tower's crystal mine. They worked relentlessly until the counter-pressure the circle generated not only stemmed the mana flow from Floria's core, but also kept more impurities from leaving her body. With their natural mana inhibiting factor, the impurities stopped Floria's body from breaking down faster than it could recover. Her hair and nails had fallen off just to regrow so quickly that both processes hurt the same. Her skin would dry and crack, revealing the muscles underneath that twisted as if they were living snakes trying to escape. That came awfully close. Solus thought as soon as Floria was stable again. Well, yeah, it's our first time doing this. We have no idea how things can develop for a core that strong. We can't afford a single moment of distraction. Lith replied. Once Floria stopped screaming and her body kept evolving at a controlled pace, Lith resumed his story until it reached the present day. The Ernest sisters already knew most of it. He only had to fill them about Solus's involvement and the truth about some of his achievements. Do you really want me as your partner during your apprenticeship? Floria soldiered up the pain, focusing on her future rather than on her dangerous present. Yeah, what about me? Tista already felt neglected by Lith in her studies about true magic. It was the reason why she had started to travel the kingdom on her own, to gain as much experience as she could. Tista was sick and tired of waiting for him to spend the crumbs of his time with her. Discovering that he had reserved a seat with Faluel for Floria, who had just awakened, and nor for her, irked Tista to no end. Yes, Floria, you are my responsibility for the next 100 years. Your magical skills have hit the wall all fake mages meet, and you need to live among awakened to get used to your condition before doing whatever you want to do with your life. Lith said, as for you, Tista, you didn't practice magic until late in your life. I know it wasn't your fault, but that plus your lack of fighting skills gives you a lot of things that you can learn on your own. I think you can learn spirit magic with us, once Faluel decides we are ready, but your knowledge about healing magic and forge mastering isn't that advanced. That's unfair. What about me? Quilla suddenly looked at her sister in envy. I've reached forge mastering skills good enough that Dad taught me royal forge mastering as well, and I'm considered one of the best healers in the kingdom. I know so much about light magic that I'm trying to expand its boundaries. Why do you think I'm focusing so hard on body sculpting? It's because there's nothing left for me to learn, whereas Floria doesn't even know Tier 5. Hey, that's unfair. I worked my ass off to learn a third specialization with a full-time job. Floria didn't like to pass for a slacker. To prove her point, Quilla made a small hologram of a hand, giving the finger appear above her palm. Remarkable. Did you learn it on your own? Lith said, well, duh. Manohar didn't help me for sure, and neither did you. I had to spend a lot of time studying the holograms projected by the communication amulets and light magic even to perform this parlor trick. Chapter 1037 Unbridled Power Part 1. I've been saving my ability with holograms for the next time you told the kids a story, to both give you a hand and a scare. Quilla would have chuckled if not for Floria's gruesome state. I think she could use another potion. And you're right. Solus conjured a third one, but this time Quilla spilled the flask. Instead of falling, the purple liquid stopped in the air and slowly seeped inside Floria's body, reaching directly her bloodstream. How did you do it? Lith and Solus said in unison. They had tried and failed many times to create a magical four-line. I'm that good, that's how. Quilla replied. I developed this method to boost the effects of body-enhancing potions and tonics as well. Not only does passing through the stomach take time, but it also reduces their potency. This way, instead, her body will receive 100% of the nutrients in just a few heartbeats. And that makes what I'm about to say even harder for me. Lith sighed. I already asked Faluel to give you a chance, but she said no. First, your core is too powerful even for her. She doesn't know a way to safely awaken you, and as long as you are a fake mage, you are competition. She firmly refused to teach you. Fake mage. Both Freya and Quilla echoed in outrage. The words sounded like an insult to all the years and efforts they had painstakingly spent training to their utmost limit. Okay, fine. Then just set me up for an interview with this Faluel. I want an opportunity to show her my worth. If after that she still refuses, I'll have no regrets. Quilla said. I'll do what I can. Lith sighed at all that trouble. Hey, what about me? Freya repeating the same phrase as the others got on Lith's nerves and made him wish it was just the tower having an echo. Floria gets longevity, secret magic lessons, and a lifelong beauty treatment, while Quilla gets her job interview on top of her godly talent. Did you ask Faluel about me as well, at least? No, I didn't. You are a healer, yes, but you stopped practicing after the academy. As far as I know, you're no forge master, but a dimensional mage. The only dimensional mage I know is an ass and the father of the wyvern who tried to kill me years ago. I can ask him if you want, but in your shoes, I would stay away from wyverns. Lith said, I've been hearing about those mana cores all day, but until now I had more important things to worry about. What's our respective level? Freya drew a circle in the air with her forefinger to emphasize that she wanted information about everyone in the room. Lith has a blue core, just like Protector. Naurand has 2 deep blue cores. Tista reached bright cyan. I'm at deep cyan. Quilla has a blue turning violet core. Floria should reach deep blue once we're done. And you have a bright cyan core, Freya. Solus said. Which means I'm the weakest of the group despite the fact that I worked my ass off as much as anyone else. You awakened are a bunch of cheaters. Freya snarled. Well, technically I'm the weakest, but mine is only a temporary condition. I'm still recovering from centuries of starvation. Solus shrugged. Well, that's rich. Sorry to interrupt your righteous rant, sis, but I feel weird again, and I'm afraid I might die. Floria cut her short. Lith, Solus, the pain has gone. Is it a good or a bad sign? Before answering, they performed a thorough checkup of her body, comparing her status with Lith's previous refinement stages. During the first phase, her body had slowly turned into that of a yellow cord awakened, while the second phase had covered the stronger green and cyan levels. Thanks to the counter mana pressure the tower produced and Floria's now enhanced body, the mana waves from her core were no longer able to force the awakening process. It's a good sign. Quilla, inject another potion into her bloodstream. It's time for the final phase, Lith said while warping to Floria's side. During that time, he had rested enough and wanted to be there for the critical step, avoiding relying on the tower's senses so that Solus could give her 100% as well. Looking good. Lith couldn't avoid checking Floria out, giving a thumbs up to her fully naked body. Despite the pained face and the fatigued expression, Floria's olive-colored skin was smoother than a baby's, emphasizing her slender limbs. Her waist-long hair was now naturally straight, silky, and so black that they almost looked blue under the tower's lights. Body refining didn't enhance her curves nor compensated for their lack thereof, but perfectly harmonized her muscles with her physique. It made them stand out less and gave her a more feminine appearance. What the heck are you doing here? Floria instinctively covered her breast and crotch, turning to a shade of purple. There's no point covering up. As I said at the beginning, I never took my eyes off you for a second, otherwise you would be dead. I'm here only for medical reasons, and you know it. Is this my perverted face? Lith asked. Yes, no, sort of. I don't know. Floria had trouble looking him in the eyes. Step aside, Quilla. We need space. Lith ignored her and took Solus's hands in his, forming a circle that encompassed Floria. In your shoes, I'd sit down and clench my teeth. Solus said, this is going to hurt so much that the rest will pale in comparison, but the good news is that the process will last much less. We're going to let your core go wild, and we'll intervene only if something goes wrong. How long exactly? During the last few hours, Floria had felt as if someone had butchered and healed her non-stop. The idea that was the easy part, and seeing the immortal body array, along with many others, surrounding her, made her Floria swallow several times. Based on Lith's experience, no more than a few minutes. Are you ready? Solus asked. No, but let's get this started anyway. Floria followed Solus's advice and braced for impact. Whatever happens, do not lose consciousness. Mind and body must fight together, Lith said before cutting off the power. The moment the magic circle disappeared, the mana waves produced by her core forced the impurities that had been stuck deep inside her bones, tissues, and organs for years to be forcefully expelled. Some of them were easy to remove, but most of them had become an integral part of her body over time. Her muscles ripped to shreds, her bones fractured to splinters, and part of her skin burst into a bloody mist. Floria screamed at the top of her lungs, feeling as if her entire body had been dipped into boiling oil. Freya and Quilla puked their guts out at the gruesome sight. Suddenly, the idea of becoming awakened had lost much of its luster. When everything seemed to be over, before Floria could take a single sigh of relief, her organs started to break apart one by one. This time she didn't scream, but only because the pain was so intense that she needed sheer willpower to not faint. Chapter 1038 Unbridled Power Part 2. Damn it, we left too many impurities. Without the immortal body array and the potions we gave her, Floria would have exploded during the first seconds of the process. Lith inwardly cursed. No time for hindsight. Let's focus on softening the waves just enough to delay the process, even if just for a few seconds. Solus thought. The problem was always the same. If the body, the impurities, and the core weren't balanced, the breakthrough would either happen so fast that the body wouldn't have the time to recover, or so violent that it would inflict damage beyond repair. The former left behind a bloody puddle, while the latter made the mage burst. The immortal body array combined with the magic circle allowed Lith and Solus to control both variables, but their lack of experience with awakening different cores levels was showing. They made mistakes and learned from them, but Floria paid the price for it, suffering excruciating pain. "Is it over?" Floria asked among pants the moment the pain stopped again. "Yes." Lith carefully examined her body with invigoration and compared the results of her blue core breakthrough with his own. Floria smiled, and then a small thud produced by her head hitting against the stone floor indicated that she had finally allowed herself to faint. "This is very interesting. During the organ's refining process, I noticed a sudden increase of her mana flow, as if they developed properties similar to adamant. For a few moments, instead of just channeling the mana coming from the core, they drew the world energy themselves." Lith cleaned Floria's body from the traces of bones, blood, and impurities left. Then, he covered her with a thick blanket and put her on a bed he had conjured from the tower. "You are a horrible person, you know." Quilla punched his arm, hurting only herself. "My sister almost died, and yet you are here, ogling at her body and talking about her as if she's just another experiment. Magical research can never stop. We've collected some priceless data here. If someday this happened to you." Lith realized how manohar like he sounded only when he was too late. "I was just messing with you." Quilla hugged him, sobbing. "Thanks for everything. Before you arrived, I was afraid we would have lost Floria forever. I don't really care about Faluel. I just want you to always be my best friend." Lith patted her head while returning the embrace. "Don't worry, little one. I'm not going any fuck me sideways." Lith pushed Quilla away, doubling over in pain. "What's WR seriously?" Again, Solus blurted out. "Fuck." With a wave of her hand, Solus sent Floria inside one of the rooms on the ground floor and Quilla back to the mirror hall with a small map that would lead her to Floria. "What's going on?" Like the others, Protector could hear what was happening but not see. Between the fight from earlier and helping Floria, Lith's core has been stimulated so much that he's having a breakthrough. Solus said while preparing the heart and herself for a second procedure. "Why did you send me away? I can administer him a potion." Quilla said. "I'm not letting you see him naked, sister." Solus made Quilla return just for the time to inject a nutrients potion. Only once they were alone did Lith remove his skinwalker armor. He had learned from experience that the less resistance he offered, the smoother the process would be. Thanks to being awakened from the crib, Lith's body was always perfectly attuned with his mana core. From his last breakthrough, he had fought countless battles, manipulated enormous amounts of energy, and pushed his whole being to its utmost limits, expanding them every time. Using so many Nova spells and then flooding his body with a controlled amount of mana for all the time needed to help Floria had been the final straw that evolved the camel's back. Lith's mana core produced waves of increasing power, seeking the last remnants of the impurities that it had to purge in order to achieve perfection. His body refining happened in a similar fashion to Floria's, just quicker and less bloody. At least until it reached the organs. Then, Lith felt as if Mogur was suddenly weighing on his shoulders. His skin dried up and his eyes shrunk, making him look like a desiccated mummy. His organs started to fail one after the other and refused to return to their original state. Lith's mind was blank, beyond pain. The only time he had experienced a similar sensation had been during his 2 deaths, when the soul had detached from his body and all physical sensations were lost. What the fuck is going on here? Solus didn't panic, but it didn't make her any less scared. Controlling the waves was pointless since they weren't doing any damage and the immortal body array didn't find any injury to fix. It was akin to treating a corpse. All kinds of healing spells simply failed to find their target. It's the first time that I see someone reaching a bright blue core, so this might as well be perfectly normal, but what if it's not? Any change sustained during a body refining process always reverts immediately. Why is it different this time? She was about to bring everyone in the heart to ask their opinion when the tower trembled. A huge mass of world energy, so strong that it almost overloaded the tower's capacity, entered the room and flooded Lith's body. His skin returned to normal, and so did all his organs. World energy and life force flowed through them with a revitalizing effect, filling them to the brim. The normally static life force of humans had become more fluid, boosting both his physical prowess and recovery abilities. Every single cell of his body was akin to a power battery for life force that now were no longer isolated from each other. They formed a circuit that connected them all from head to toe, allowing them to share both their energy and vitality. Solus could see that all of Litha's organs not only offered no resistance to the mana anymore, but they also developed what she could only describe as their own pseudo-core. If Floria is like adamant, Lith is like Davros. All of his body is now capable of drawing the world energy and storing it to assist the mana core. If before flesh and blood hindered the most powerful spells in our arsenal, they might now enhance them instead. The long pause was due to the time necessary for the world energy to build up enough to replace part of Litha's body weight with pure energy. I can't wait for. Yet as it had happened during Litha's and Floria's last breakthrough, the world energy flowing through his organs didn't last long. The pseudo-cores disappeared, returning his body to normal right before it was forced to shapeshift into his hybrid form. Lith started to emit a silver light that spread both upward and downward, drawing even more world energy to itself. A silver pillar descended from the sky, and a black one rose from the ground, meeting where Lith lay on the floor. Instead of disappearing, all the impurities expelled from his human body now crawled back over Lith, covering his skin like a swarm of pitch-black insects. Chapter 1039 Unbridled Power Part 3. Okay, at least I've seen this happening before. Sort of. Normally, when a beast evolves, they release a golden light pillar, but Lith emits both a silver and a black one instead. It might depend on his hybrid nature, but I still wonder why it happened during his last world tribulation rather than just when his wormling body undergoes body refining. Solus focused all the world energy the tower could muster inside the heart, to make sure that Litha's body had all the energy it needed the moment it needed it. If I had helped the process earlier, maybe his human body refining would have been smoother, or at least less scary. Oh well, there's no point crying over spilled milk. Now I know and I can act accordingly. Litha's 7 eyes, even those that were still closed shut, shed black tears while his scales merged with each other, becoming thicker, harder, and denser until they rivaled with steel. The process had left half of his body exposed, revealing a fiery red skin lying underneath his hardened shell. Together with the human impurities that had crawled back on Litha's body, all the so-called defective parts gathered up on the side of his head, the end of his spine, and on his back before bursting into flames. His small curved horns and short tail grew bigger, while a second set of atrophied wings popped out his back. New, thicker scales replaced the missing ones while 3 rays of pure elemental energy erupted from Litha's opened eyes, flushing out more and more impurities. Litha's hybrid form was born from an already evolved body that possessed a powerful core, so it was perfect. What it lacked was the ability to channel the full power generated by the constant battle between his Emperor Beast, Abomination, and human life forces. Litha's hybrid body was too small and weak to withstand the full scope of such powerful conflicting energy. During a breakthrough, his human body would break down just to be reshaped into a more suitable host for Litha's core, whereas his hybrid form was forced to grow so that the wormling could unlock its true potential. Thanks to the world energy stirring Litha's life forces, not only did they evolve, but also their fight for dominance changed. The Abomination's side, in the form of a hollow black sphere, grew in size and attempted to swallow the others. Yet the human side suppressed it from the outside while the beast side, in the form of a burning star, struck at the Abomination from the inside. The human and beast life forces' joined efforts allowed them to stop the Abomination side, reaching a new balance. All 3 of them had grown not only stronger, but they had also seeped into each other, thinning once again the boundaries that separated the human life force from the hybrid and generating something that one day might become greater than the sum of its parts. During the whole process, the conflict between life forces released a powerful energy that ignited the emerald flames of life. They burst out from Litha's body, covering him from head to toe. Yet instead of hurting him, the flames nurtured his wormling form, making it grow larger and taller until the wormling stood almost 4 meters, 13 feet 1 inch, tall, before reverting to its normal height once the energy was spent due to the lack of mass necessary to support such huge build. No new eye opened, correct? Lith said amid pants once he managed to gather enough air in his lungs to speak. Sorry, none. They must be linked to your mastery over the elements or catalyzed by your world tribulations. The ODI made you open the blue one, and Lith's head hit the floor with a thud, and his snoring cut her short. And I better put you to sleep as well. Solus had the skinwalker armor cover Lith again, and then tucked him in his bed before going to meet the others in the mirror hall. How are they? Freya was pale as a ghost. The screams of 2 of the people she loved the most were still echoing in her head. Neither her nor Quilla had moved from where Solus had left them, not even to go and check on Floria. Dead tired, but otherwise they are as fit as a fiddle. Breakthroughs are heavy on the body, and only rest can help them to recover their strength. They'll sleep for 8 hours minimum. Solus's words made the Ernest sigh in relief. You're horrible friends. Quilla poked Naurin's and Protector's chest with a finger. How could you be so calm? What if any of them died or worse? I don't know your sister, and I'm not going to pretend I care for her. Naurin's honesty bordered on rudeness, making Protector sigh. As for Scourge, he's bound to Solus. He can scream all he wants. As long as I don't hear her screaming and the tower quaking, I know he is fine. Good gods, I really hope I've never been so clueless in the past. Protector thought, even though I have to admit it would explain why at the beginning Celia insisted so much to accompany me everywhere I went. Forgive him, Quilla. Naurin went through a lot, and because of it, he has a hard time caring for strangers. I'm sorry if I appeared indifferent, but I was just confident in Scourge's abilities to save Floria. On top of that, if you saw him fight as I did, you would never think that something as trivial as a breakthrough can hurt Scourge. Solus, can we please check on them? I think it would help our friends to relax. Raman said, Sure, just be quiet. I don't want to wake them up, and Lith is extremely jumpy when he sleeps. He could react to the intrusion with extreme prejudice. Solus let only the girls inside Floria's room. Its sight made them gasp in amazement and almost moved them to tears. The room was a perfect mix of Floria's bedroom from the academy and of that in the Ernest household. It was furnished with exact replicas of all ornaments and pictures she loved the most. Lith and Solus had prepared the room for her ever since he had decided to bring Floria to Faluel. After Freya's and Quilla's diagnostic spells confirmed that their sister's condition was nothing that a power nap couldn't fix, they let her rest. By the gods, Floria didn't look that good even after the cosmetic magic treatment. You would never guess she survived several life and death situations in a single day instead of going to a spa. I'm so envious of her. Freya sighed. How many rooms you got here? Quilla noticed the several doors. As many as I want. Solus shrugged. At the moment there is Litha's, mine, Tista's, and Floria's room, but I can always add another. The tower is a dimensional magic's wonder, and it's much bigger on the inside. So, could you make ours as well? Quilla had yet to give up on the idea of joining Lith in his apprenticeship, and a home away from home was a dream come true. Why not? At a flick of Solus's wrist, another door appeared on the wall. Inside, there were the living quarters that the White Griffin had assigned Quilla as assistant professor alongside her room from the Ernest mansion. Chapter 1040 Unbridled Power Part 4. By the Great Mother. This is a dimensional mage's life dream. You bent and stretched space, creating matter out of nothing. Can you teach me? Pretty pleased with the cherry on top. Freya said, You were right about the space distortion part, but I didn't create anything. I just reshaped the tower according to my memories. Everything you see, it's just a copy made out of stones after I adjusted their density and composition. As for the teaching, sorry, but I can't. I didn't create those enchantments. I just managed the place. All my memories about Master Minadion are lost, and we found no records nor even lore about how she made this tower. Solus said. The Ornis spent quite some time customizing their own rooms, and after that, Solus gave everyone a tour of the tower after making them take an oath of secrecy. Oh gods, you have your own crystal mines. Freya said. I thought you only recently gained these new floors. Are you really capable of growing purple crystals this fast? I wish. The crystals you see are either spoils of war or bought. This way we skip the gemstone's condensation phase energy and focus the world to enhance already formed crystals. As you can see, only the weaker yellow crystals show already some green vein, whereas the purple crystal grew new branches but remained of the same quality. I wonder if it will ever turn white and how long the process will take. Litha's pessimism had rubbed off Solus, who saw the glass half full, but to everyone else the mines were beyond their wildest dreams. Girls, shouldn't you contact your father? Orion must be worried sick. He's the reason we came to your rescue in the first place. Solus said once the tour was over. Freya, shouldn't you reassure your guild members as well? Oh gods, Dad, I almost forgot. The Urnas said in unison. Can you bring me back home, please? Right now Celia is all alone with 3 kids, and I'm worried that if we wait any longer, I'll find my house in shambles. Protector said. Quilla and Freya had no idea what he was talking about until they felt a low rumble. Suddenly, the scenery outside the tower changed to the familiar Tron Woods. It's been a pleasure meeting you all, but I can't wait 8 hours for those guys to wake up. On top of that, I bet you have a lot of personal questions for Solus. Naurin shook their hands before throwing a kiss at Tista. Bye, darling. Call me. Tista replied. I'm now Litha's neighbor. Feel free to visit me anytime you want. Celia loves company, and the kids love roughing up new people. Protector and Naurin left before the Urnas could recover from the shock. Are you two really dating? The 2 women were beyond speechless. Tista was even more gorgeous than Freya, which made her life even harder. The idea that she had found someone before them despite her looks and her brother's looming menace made the Urnas sisters sick with envy to the point that they temporarily forgot about the marvel of the tower warp. No, it's just a joke between us, like yours with Lith, Freya. Naurin had to act as my boyfriend for over a week during our stay in Jambel, so that I could enjoy the vacation as well. Tista replied. Why? Are you jealous? Of you, a freaking goddess among mortals with the Lord of Destruction as your brother? Sure thing. As for Naurin, I don't know him enough to care. Freya said. Dad. We must call Dad. Quilla pulled her sleeve as Freya snapped out of it. All right. Solus warped them back at the mines. Orion has put a tracker in your amulets, and if you call him from Lucia, he would get suspicious. Freya and Quilla first called together their parents one at a time, reassuring them of their own well-being and Florius. Thank the gods you're all right. What the heck happened there, and where is Lith? I want to thank him properly. Orion felt as if the sun had returned, and he could finally breathe again. He's resting as well. He and Floria took quite a beating. Sorry, Dad. We only know that the undead courts attacked the camp with the help of traitors in the army. Maybe one of my guild members knows more. I'll call you back. Freya left Orion talking with Quilla and checked her amulet. Half of the members of the Crystal Shield Guild were dead, and their contact runes had disappeared from her amulet. She grieved them for a moment before calling Wyra. I'll mourn later. Now I need to know what happened and if they need healing. She thought. The conversation lasted long, but mostly because all the guild members wanted to speak with their god and make sure she was all right. Wyra told Freya everything she knew, which even though she didn't see much, it was still a lot to take in. Everyone but Cortis turned traitor, and Calion was involved. Orion's shock quickly turned into anger. That little piece of shit, bastard son of a bastard. I'm going to kill him. No. Better, I'll give him to your mother. Where is he now? Dead. He had a bad case of the lith. Freya said. What about Captain Lotta and Prospector Orman? No one knows. She lied through her teeth. Maybe they are on the run or the undead courts hide them. Litha's allies had rescued people only until he had cast his first Nova spell. For an Archmage, it was a believable feat after that. He had killed everyone to keep his real strength a secret. The survivors only knew that mysterious mages had saved them. Only those inside Solus's and Baba Yaga's mage tower had witnessed the fate of the human and the undead battalions. The survivors believed the traitors had simply escaped, afraid of the consequences their betrayal would have once exposed. Before Freya's call, no one had dared to call the army. The survivors couldn't trust anyone, and they knew that revealing their position to one of the traitors hidden among the army's ranks would spell their doom. I swear that as soon as I get back home, I'll leave no stone unturned to find and punish those responsible for the attempt on your lives. Keep your amulets on and never forget that Dad loves you. Orion said before ending the call. Quilla and Freya had a lot to ask, and even more to do. Yet now that they were finally able to relax, all the revelations, the fights, and the emotional roller coaster they had endured took their toll. They went to their respective rooms and fell asleep the moment their heads touched the pillow. I think we should follow their example, Tista said. Energy body or not, I can see how tired you are, Solus. You gave your all, and some more today. You deserve some rest. Besides, once Floria wakes up, we'll need all of our strength to answer the many questions she's bound to have. Solus nodded and went to sleep as well, but only after activating all the tower's defensive devices and warping again to Lucia. The Urnas had put their amulets in their pocket dimensions to not get disturbed, and Solus had no idea if Baba Yaga might be still watching them. Chapter 1041 Two Sides of the Same Pain Part 1. I don't know what her mage tower can do, nor I'm willing to find out. Baba Yaga already knows too much. We can't afford to reveal any more of our hand to her. Solus thought. 8 hours after his breakthrough, Lith woke up. Even though his body absorbed the world energy on its own, and the tower further boosted his recovery abilities, Lith still felt like crap. Once again, after the core and body refining, invigoration had no effect and could only be used to assess his physical condition. My bright blue core is half empty, and my body has yet to stabilize, he thought while checking his pocket watch. Usually, it takes me just 4 hours of sleep in the tower to reset invigoration's effects, yet even after double that time, I'm barely able to stand. With each new breakthrough, the changes are so deep that this time I might need a few days before I can use either of my breathing techniques safely. Before even checking with the tower how and where everyone was, Lith called Camilla. Hi, Kimmy. Sorry to keep you waiting. You disappeared for over half a day. She cut him short. I don't want apologies, just tell me that you are all right. Camilla was still wearing the same clothes she had when Lith had left, and judging by the state of the room, she had yet to let the cleaning service in, sleep, or eat. I'm all right, babe, don't worry. His words made her sigh in relief and flop into bed. Camilla had no strength to look for her pajamas, so she just stripped to her undies, giving Lith an adrenaline rush until the blankets covered her. Thank the gods. Now talk to me until I fall asleep. Why did it take so long? Did you get hurt badly? She asked. Not really. Floria's awakening took a few hours, and after that, I underwent a breakthrough as well. I called as soon as I regained consciousness. I have yet to check on her. Lith replied. Really? Camilla giggled. So now the powerful Archmage Verhen is even more powerful. When are you coming back? My leave ends in a few days and I miss you like crazy. Shouldn't you ask me what happened or how Floria and everyone is? Lith said. Nah. If you're so calm, it means that the bad guys are dead and your friends are okay. I'll hear the details on your return, hopefully for breakfast. Now I just want to enjoy your company and hear only good news. Camilla yawned. Things went smoothly thanks to Protector, Naurant, and Tista who gave me a hand. Say hi to them for me. Gods, I'm so happy that now I can talk about everything with them as well. Keeping your many secrets doesn't help my social life. Camilla stretched her lithe arms while looking for the most comfortable position. Will do. I'll get back as soon as I finish teaching Floria the ropes. The rest can. A small plop and the weird new angle of the hologram told Lith she was already asleep. He closed the call and used his bond with the tower to check on the others. Aside from Floria, everyone was up and having breakfast in the dining room. Lith's stomach grumbled like a lion, demanding its due. Hi guys, hope you slept well. Why the different location? Lith asked after joining them. Solus. Quilla attempted to say, but Lith's and Solus's eyes exchanged colors again due to their mind link. Gods, don't do that in front of others. It's creepy. Thanks. I wanted to say it for years, but I never had the courage. Tista said. It's not creepy. It's efficient. Lith and Solus said in unison with their eyes still ablaze. And that was super creepy. Floria said while walking into the room. Gods, I feel like crap, but I'm too hungry to keep sleeping. Are those hot chocolate and freshly baked chocolate chips biscuits? For a few minutes, crunching and swallowing were the only sounds filling the room. Only after the stomachs turned from roaring lions to purring kittens did the conversation resume. Camilla is waiting for me at the Flying Griffin Resort, and her leave is about to end. Tista and Solus offered to teach you the basics of awakening until my return and answer any question you might have. Is that okay with you? Lith asked. Are you really going away like this? After all that happened? Floria looked glum, way more than her sisters. They all had hoped to spend some time together with Lith, but for different reasons. Floria, it's her birthday, and Cammy waited months for this leave. If you were in her shoes, how would you take your boyfriend spending this time with another woman, and exit that, rather than with you? He put it bluntly for her to see. I would rip his head off after pulling his guts out. She grumbled. My point exactly. Thanks to you. I'm not obsessed with my work anymore. Lith noticed Solus glaring at him, while Tista could barely hold her laughter. I mean, I'm not obsessed with it as before, and I know how to treat the people I love right. His words this time received a nod of approval. Once Cammy has to get back to work, we can all spend a lot of time together. I don't see any of you taking another assignment in the near future. He chuckled. Yeah, I lost so many good people that it will take some time to find replacements. Honestly, I don't even know if I should try to rebuild the Crystal Shield Guild or just disband it. Freya said. The 7 who had died during the incursion at the camp were all people she had recruited, tested, and trained personally. Freya had invested lots of hours in their preparation and to help them become better mages. Freya cherished every member of her guild, and now so many were gone, leaving a hole in her heart. Sorry, Freya, I don't mean to be rude. I'm really sorry for your loss. Lith said. Thanks, Lith. There's no need to apologize. Too many things happened yesterday. Even though you had already given me the body count, I had completely forgotten about them until Solus reminded me of my duty. I can't believe that after you rescued us, all I could think about was awakening and to not be the only one cut out of the group. I don't think I'm fit to be a leader. Freya's words struck Aquila's heart as well. As soon as Floria was out of hot waters, my obsession for magic kicked in. I didn't spare a thought about all the people that died nor about my parents. I'm no better than Freya, Aquila thought. The mood in the room turned so gloomy that Tista felt uncomfortable for being the only one happy to be alive and well. Before you leave, there are a few things that I'd like to discuss with you in private. Floria cleaned her mouth and stood up. Do you want to take a walk outside? Because the tower and Solus are one. So if we stay in here, she'll hear everything. Lith said. What's the point? She and you are one as well. Even if she doesn't hear it now, she'll know the next time you do your creepy eye thingy anyway. There was an edge in her voice that hurt both Lith and Solus, making them feel guilty. Chapter 1042 Two Sides of the Same Pain Part 2. They moved to Litha's room and Floria made sure to lock the door. Is it soundproof like the academy? Because I don't know if we'll manage to keep it civil. She asked. Yes, it is. Solus nervously shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Yesterday, I was too scared to think clearly. Between Baba Yaga, the traitors, and my impending death, the only thing I could focus on was survival. After I woke up, however, I had the time and peace of mind to think back at the story you told us. I noticed that you conveniently left Camilla out of it. What? She asked while clenching her hands with so much strength that they turned white. Solus and I met when I was 4, while I met Camilla just over 2 years ago. She isn't a mage nor an awakened, so she played little part in my life as a mage. Lith replied. Not that. What I'm asking you is, does she know? Floria snarled. I followed your advice and told her about me being a hybrid during our first anniversary. I told her about awakening during my birthday, when I came clean with my family as well. Lith said. So, she doesn't know about Solus, correct? No, she doesn't, and so does my family. I never told anyone about her unless my hand was forced by the events or someone discovered her on their own. Scarlet the Scorpicore tried to kill her on their first meeting, so I became wary of our secret. Protector found out only because he shares my memories. Tista knows her because, just like you, without Solus's help she would have died during her awakening. Naurand helped us against Dawn, and Faluel knows only because Scarlet told her. Any other question? Lith said. Yes, I've got plenty. Was she there during our first kiss? During our first date? Was she there when we shared our first night together, or whenever I opened my heart to the boy who I considered both my friend and boyfriend? Floria paced around Lith like a predator, without ever taking her eyes off him. Yes, she was always there. At least at first. After things got serious, after our first night, she learned how to temporarily sever our physical link to give to you and me some privacy. Lith said, What do you mean, after things got serious? Was everything a joke to you until that point? Did the two of you really care so little about my feelings before we? Don't put words in my mouth. I never said anything like that. Lith cut her short. Back then, we were both young, and I never expected that you would care so much for me, nor that in time I would come to return those feelings. You have no idea the kind of monster I was before meeting Solus. The things I did, and that I would still do if it wasn't for her. Solus pushed me to give us a chance because she liked you and wanted me to be happy. She has been my moral compass for years until I met you. You fixed me, never letting go of the smallest fragment of me every time I fell apart. But it was Solus who allowed me to never forget what's like to be human. I know that you're hurt, and you've got all the rights to be angry, but don't take it out on her. Put yourself in my shoes. I was the son of farmers, with a living artifact at my finger and the entirety of Mogur as my enemy. Everyone in the kingdom knows about the Black Star and the Lost Cities. After meeting Scarlet, I understood that my worst fears didn't even come close to how dire our situation was. I was a monster, she was a monster, but at least we were together. When you and I met, Solus was just a voice in my head. How could I possibly tell you that and expect you not considering me either raving mad or under the effects of a cursed item? Only later did we find that she could turn into a mage tower again, something that existed only in legends. Not only Solus was a priceless treasure, but she already was my best friend. After that, you and I became close, but that only made things more difficult. She can't literally live without me, and I can't possibly introduce myself by saying, "Hi, I'm Lith Verhen, and there's a girl living inside my head." Lith found himself panting out of breath. Lith is right. Solus stepped forward, looking up to Floria due to their height gap. For a long time, I've been nothing but a voice, oblivious of the ways of the world and as naive as a child. He kept my existence hidden solely for two reasons. The first is that, unlike you, he doesn't come from a pampered background. You act all high and mighty, but you know nothing about hunger, hardships, or loneliness. Lith knew we were completely alone, even inside our own family. Our magic made us a target for the envy of our brothers and neighbors. Local nobles treated us like an oddity, and we had to keep it that way because none of them would have left a powerful artifact in the hands of a filthy commoner. Her voice lost its innate kindness by the word, replacing it with anger. The second reason is that even if Mogur was a fair place where nobles didn't abuse their power, how could he possibly have a normal life if everyone knew about me? Lith would have been treated like a freak, just like you're doing, because they wouldn't understand the depth of our bond nor the boundaries that we voluntarily set to ensure our respective privacy. No girl would have dated him, and no person would have hung out with him unless to exploit us. Telling the truth would have only meant sentencing Lith to a lifetime of isolation, just like me. You have no idea how terrible it feels when you can't even talk to the people you love without scaring the shit out of them. I've been part of Lith's family ever since he was 4, yet I'm still a stranger to them. I depended on Lith to remain sane just as much he depended on me to remain human. Can you imagine how it feels to be able to see and hear, yet incapable of touching, speaking, or have the simplest human interaction? For years I've been nothing but a voice in his head. Solus's body disappeared, and her skinwalker armor fell to the ground. My real voice could only be heard inside the tower. Then, I became a wisp. The most useless, pathetic imitation of life. Her wisp form appeared and Solus moved through the room, the furniture, and even through Floria. The feeling of the ethereal body phasing through her made Floria shudder. I was still unable to taste, to touch anything but Lith. Solus's wisp rested between his arms, like she once used to do. No matter how many marvels Mogur had to offer or how many people I wanted to befriend, his hands were my world and his heart was my son. During those moments we spent together in the tower, I finally felt like a real person. Chapter 1043 Unspoken Words Part 1. Yet, in the outside world, I knew that I was a burden for the relationship between the two of you first and with Camilla later. That's why 1 year ago, once I regained my body, even if it's just a featureless energy construct, I kept it hidden from Lith. The wisp jumped off his arms and floated in front of Floria so that their eyes now met. Even before that, I left Lith's hand whenever he spent quality time with Camilla. I didn't tell him about my new body until I was forced to because outside this tower, I'm still nothing but a voice. Even now, I can only dream about having a normal life. After hearing my side of the story, do you still feel like blaming Lith for keeping my existence a secret? Before answering, think about how, Despite all you two went through together, you lashed out the moment you learned the truth and how your much more immature self at the academy would have reacted. Now Solus was out of breath as well, her hair whipped around as if she was amid a storm. Floria set aside her hurt feelings and felt stupid for wearing her heart on her sleeve. After Lith had rescued her, Floria had been blinded by gratefulness. Just like after sleeping on all the revelations of the past day, she had been blinded by jealousy. It seems I keep going from one extreme to the other. Floria sighed. Before you hear my answer, however, I would like you to cover up, Solus. From what I can see, you're not very featureless anymore. Solus's anger disappeared as she blushed up to her ears. A quick glance revealed to her that Floria was right. Even though most of her body was still made of energy, its anatomy had become quite accurate. She quickly turned her head, catching Lith, who had been staring at her ass from the beginning. I didn't mention it earlier because I didn't want to ruin your heartfelt speech. Lith shrugged while giving her a telepathic thumbs up. Looking real good. He told her via their mind link to not embarrass her in front of Floria. Damn it. This is one of those times I'd like for us to not be always sincere with each other. Solus replied while turning a few shades of purple along with the tower's light until her skinwalker armor saved her from further humiliation. Floria paced around the room this time, trying to separate facts from opinions before speaking again. After a few minutes, Floria sat down on the bed and took a few deep breaths to calm down. What part did Solus play in our relationship exactly? Floria asked, her voice back to normal. She pushed me to take you out more, to be less of an insensitive jerk, and to be less stingy with my presence. Lith replied, making Floria chuckle. Solus, were you there during my mom's birthday, when Lith promised to come to my rescue, no matter what, the moment I called his name? Yes, but I swear that I never wrote any of his speeches, nor did I play any part in the events that led to you two to become close and later to break up. That promise surprised me as well. It's one of the most romantic things he has ever done. Solus replied. I know, and that's why I got so riled up earlier. I'm not going to lie, discovering your existence, Solus, turned a creepy light on all those beautiful moments we shared. More than that, it made me doubt Litha's feelings not only for me, but for Camilla as well. Floria said. What do you mean? Lith asked. Well, put yourself in my shoes. We didn't see for a long time, yet you made that wonderful promise to me, and in Kula you put your life on the line to save me. That's because I still care deeply about you. You are. Floria raised her hand, cutting Lith short. Then, yesterday, you came to my rescue again, told me all those beautiful things about how much you care about me, and that you want me at your side during your apprenticeship despite you already have a girlfriend. That made me think. Think that even though you have Camilla, you didn't tell her about Solus. That maybe you were using me as an experiment to see my reaction to your other half and decide whether or not to share the secret with her as well. Worst case scenario, you might as well be trying to keep me as a replacement in case Camilla breaks up with you. Floria said. That would be cruel and egotistical beyond belief. Lith blurted out. No, it would just be human. Floria shook her head. I need time to think about my apprenticeship with Faluel and about how I want our relationship if there has to be any. Floria stood up, looking at Solus in the eyes. I apologize for my rudeness towards you. You've been through things so horrible that I can barely fathom them, yet I judged you both hastily and harshly. You're a brave, wonderful woman, Solus. You and Lith are lucky to have each other. Then, she stood in front of Lith. Part of her wanted to hold him just as strongly as the other part wanted to slap the heck out of him. Do you have anything to add before we part ways again? She clenched her hands to keep them under control. His pained expression broke her heart in more than one way. It both rekindled her feelings for him, yet it also exacerbated all those years of secrets and deception, making her wonder if any part of their relationship had ever been real. Yes, I want you to know that after you broke up with me, I felt like shit for a long time, and I wondered why I didn't fight for you back then. Yet it was only after meeting Camilla that I understood the reason for my apparently foolish behavior. You've been there for me the whole time. You never let me go, no matter how much I pushed you away. You were the only person to know the truth about me, and you accepted me anyway. Yet the moment you left me, I stood idly because it was the right thing to do. Because back then, I was still toxic. I was a lump of poison ready to plague whoever attempted to come too close to me. The only way I had to stop you would have been proposing, but everything we might have built together would have been doomed from the start due to its foundations made of lies and venom. We would have surely broken up after a while, but not before ruining both my life and yours, tainting every good memory of us we shared. I still regret not shedding a single tear for Uriel, just like I did when you left me. I had no feelings of my own but rage and hate. Without Solace, I was an empty shell. Without her light, I was no better than an abomination. On top of that, we were both too young and our ideals too different. You dreamt of fighting for the kingdom, whereas my only goal was to discover what is wrong with me and protect my family from the danger that my bundle of secrets would cause the moment it gets discovered. Chapter 1044 Unspoken Words Part 2. I don't mean to be rude, but I think that you pushing your feelings onto me and calling them love also played a big part. You were too quick in telling me you loved me, especially since you knew nothing about love or me in the first place. You just loved the image you had of me, and I knew it was nothing but a lie. Camilla and I, instead, took our relationship seriously, and we almost broke up right off the bat because of Barian. We opened to each other slowly, accepting our respective flaws while trying not to drown the other with our own shit. With her ugly past, her twisted family, and her poor sister, I could truly relate to her. Not seeing each other for days, sometimes weeks at a time, allowed me to understand how much I appreciated the moments we spent together, separating my feelings for her from the egotistical desire of not wanting to be alone. I realized to have truly changed only when I found out that I cared for her even when parted from Solace. I'm still paranoid, cynical, and bitter, but I'm no longer poisonous. I'm scared to death of how Camilla will react when she learns about Solace, and that's why I never told her that I love her. Because if I do, and then she leaves me, I don't know if I would be able to take such a blow. Lith said, "Wait, how the heck do you do that? What do you say when Camilla tells you that she loves you?" Floria was deeply moved by how much thought he had put in their past relationship and flabbergasted by the revelation. She never did, so I never had to say anything. Lith shrugged. After over 2 years? Are you kidding me? Floria's genuine surprise irked Lith to no end. Just like you, she understood I had many secrets and she had a few of her own. She's probably just waiting to have a clear picture before throwing the L word. Lith said, "I'm sorry, but you introduced her to your family. You helped her sister, lived together, and now Camilla knows everything about you but Solace. What the heck is she still waiting for?" I agree that love takes time to grow, but this is too long. Floria didn't like her own words. They made her sound as if she was trying to undermine Litha's relationship and expected them to break up any moment. Yet she had to say those things because she believed them and she cared for him. "She's just afraid," Solace said, making the other two turn toward her. "Floria, Cowlion has deeply hurt you, but he's the only one." Camilla had several Cowlions in her life. People she believed she could love and yet tossed her away like garbage. Her family crushed her trust in bonds and those men that she had in people. Camilla is scared by everything the word love implies because it only brought pain to her. How do you know? It was the first time Lith heard about such things. He had never asked about Camilla's past relationships because he thought they were meaningless to her. Yet now he had learned that the reason she didn't mention them was that her scars ran deep. "I just watched her and listened to her words when I was there during your dates. That, and while you were being cleansed from Huriel's energy, Camilla told Tista about her ex-boyfriends. Mostly, they were horror stories." Solace replied, "Then you better go back to her fast. Just remember that I'm no one's second choice, and neither should be Solace." Floria said, while looking him straight in the eyes. Solace warped the tower near the closest city gate, allowing Lith to get back to the Flying Griffin Resort around 6 in the morning thanks to the time zone difference. "Cammy, I'm back." Lith woke her up by gently caressing her face. "Lith, what time is it?" she mumbled with a drowsy voice. 6:20? Damn, I thought it was later. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up so early. Get back to sleep." Lith was still cursing the time difference when Camilla sat up, throwing her arms around his neck. She gave him a long, soft, and sweet kiss that words could only describe as perfect. "Silly, I wanted you to wake me up. I've been worried all the time, to the point that I was dreaming about you being engaged in a mortal fight with some mage." Her perky breasts pressed against his chest, causing an adrenaline rush that countered the exhaustion he felt. "How can you possibly be so gorgeous after staying up almost for an entire day and why does every time I see you naked feel like the first? Lith said while Camilla dragged him under the bedsheets, softly caressing his hair. Beats me, oh powerful archmage. She giggled. You look like crap, instead. What the heck did you do until now? Believe it or not, I slept for over 8 hours. Breakthroughs at my level are like giving birth to a damn cactus. Lith closed his eyes, losing himself in her caresses and the warmth of her bare skin. Is it a boy or a girl? She chuckled. Definitely a boy. It was too much of a dick to be a girl. Well, since I'm up, you could tell me everything that has happened since you left. Before that, would you like to take a shower, have an early breakfast, or... His snoring cut her short. Between all the accumulated fatigue and the stress from confronting Floria, Lith needed sheer willpower just to stay conscious. Camilla's gentle touch had crushed his defenses and allowed him to fully relax. Or me. Camilla finished the phrase a second too late. This is nothing like the romantic reunion I had pictured. You're a killjoy, Lithverhen. She kissed his head, and when even that didn't cause any paranoid reaction, Camilla knew he was really fast asleep. With all your secrets and silences, you make it unbelievably hard to love you, but I love you anyway. While Lith spent the rest of Camilla's vacation at the Flying Griffin Resort, the kingdom was in quite a turmoil. An army strong of 1,000 men had disappeared overnight with no plausible explanation. The few survivors all reported the same thing. The battalion led by Captain Lotta had let the undead inside the camp, and then attempted to slaughter everyone before the arrival of a group of mysterious mages. Damn it, Journey snarled. She was sitting in the family tea room in the Erna's mansion with all of her children, Orion, and Wyra, Freya's second-in-command. The Erna's sisters and their brothers had returned home with conventional means after devising a plausible cover story. Journey didn't believe a word of it, but being them alive by the miracle she knew as Lith, she didn't pry further. The how he did it paled in comparison to the result of bringing her daughters safe and sound back home. Are you certain that Callahan was there, and that he said that Archmage Dyrus was directly involved in the coup? Journey asked Wyra. Yes. Is there anyone alive who heard him say that might testify? I'm sorry, no. Captain Cordis is dead, and so is Callahan. You could ask Lotta or Orman, but if they faced Archmage Dyrus, I doubt they survived. Wyra shook her head. Chapter 1045 Towers and Effects Part 1. No one survived, silly child. Journey thought. There is no other possible explanation for all the resources of the kingdom failing to find a single traitor alive. The army deployed to the scene several investigation teams in a matter of hours after Orion gave the alarm, and they have yet to find anything. Be them humans or undead, the contact runes of all those involved in the attack have disappeared from the face of Mogar. Even my contacts in the undead courts reported several high-profile members going missing about at the same time. A thorough investigation will take a while, but so far we found only corpses and piles of ashes. Something, maybe Lith, slaughtered them all. I'm ready to testify, Archon Ernest. The truth must be revealed. Wyra mistook Journey's silence for consideration about the risks that a trial involved. That's as brave of you as it would be pointless. You didn't see Dyrus's hologram, nor hear him give any order. All we have is your word against both a dead man who can't be interrogated and one of the most influential archmages of the kingdom. Unless you have a death wish, do not mention Dyrus unless a constable asks for Callahan's exact words. Otherwise, Dyrus would have an easy time claiming that either you're accusing him because of your loyalty to the Ernest household or that Callahan was simply bragging. Journey said, Are you saying that after all he did, Dyrus will not face justice? Floria jumped up. Yes, dear. You got away with your life, and that's more than most in that camp can say. Don't worry about it. Playing dirty is a game two can play. Journey's soft smile while she thought about her opponent sent a cold shiver down everyone's back. Dusk Court, a few hours after both mage towers left the Famar mines. After the contact runes of the officials of the Dusk Court involved in the joint mission with Dyrus had disappeared from his contact amulet, the Hushed King had mobilized both his best scouts and spies. He tasked the former with checking the events in Famar and the latter with finding out if the humans or the council were responsible for the massacre. Yet after days of investigation and spending a small treasure to grease the usual wheels, they had all come back empty-handed. Run it by me again. How can a battalion strong of 500 elder undead plus another of 1,000 thralls we spent years infiltrating the army disappear overnight along with most of the original members of the expedition? When Dusk was younger, he had the habit to kill the messenger who delivered bad news. The problem with such an attitude was that the next messenger would still deliver the same news, but it would take longer since no one wanted to report anything to him. "We have no idea. Look at the vampire," Dusk's personal aide said. "What about the mines? How could we lose them without putting up enough of a fight that not a single person lived to tell the tale?" "We have no idea." Luca shrugged. "This doesn't make sense. My sources in the Awakened Council tell me that no powerful elder had any interest in our operation, nor in the Urna's girls. Yet to bring such devastation so quickly, it would take Mom's prowess, and awakened assault teams, or at least someone like Ragu." Dusk drummed his fingers on his Davros throne. "Keep investigating and leave no stone unturned. If this is the work of an unknown player, it could compromise more operations. The mines in Dyrus are irrelevant, but we can't let this shadow take us by surprise again." A few days later, village of Lusha, Verhen household. The tower's warp and Floria exchanging her communication rune with Solus made it easy for her to get in touch with Tista. Litha's sister taught Floria the basics of awakening, starting from the breathing techniques invigoration and accumulation. Floria had still a lot on her mind and would have preferred to stay away from everything remotely related to Lith, but spirit magic forced her hand. All living creatures on Mogar were more than just flesh and blood. They had not only a life force, but also mana that came from their cores. In normal conditions, the core slumbered due to the dampening effect of the impurities. Once awakened, however, a core would constantly produce a mana flow parallel to the bloodstream, no matter if its owner knew breathing techniques, like the self-awakened, or not, like Salark's feathers or Tyrus's queen's corpse. An awakened core's mana output could be boosted by the mage's willpower and emotions. Spirit magic was the consequence of the bond between the mage's core and their will. Unlike all other kinds of magic, it didn't need any connection with the world energy, which made spirit magic both more versatile and wilder. Lith had discovered it back when he was just a toddler, and his core was so weak that spirit magic could barely shove spoons down his brother's throat. He had spent months mastering spirit magic until he could use it as if it was another of his limbs. Tista had awakened with a cyan core and had received Litha's training from day one, allowing her to not involuntarily hurt her academy mates. Floria, however, had a blue core and just vague notions about what being an awakened implied. Whenever she was angry, the first hapless fellow who bothered her could feel an invisible hand crushing their throat or crotch, while when she was sad the objects in the house would float in front of the terrified eyes of the domestic staff. Rumors about the Urna's household being cursed were increasing by the day, and after Floria had realized that self-discipline wasn't enough to stop those phenomenons, she had been forced to ask for help. She already had enough trouble adjusting to her newfound physical prowess that made Floria break 1 cup out of 2 she used, but hurting people was way worse. Items could just be bought, but the fear and pain she unintentionally inflicted upon her victims couldn't be fixed that easily. Don't worry. Spirit magic at its tier 0 is easy. You just have to learn Litha's breathing techniques. Tista said, "Are you saying this is just first magic?" Floria had almost killed several people and destroyed a lot of things even from a great distance, something impossible for elemental first magic. "Yes, now breathe along with us." Tista nodded. The 3 women were sitting cross-legged on the ground floor of the tower. Due to the violent nature of her awakening, Floria had never learned how to perceive the flow of world energy in her surroundings. Such skill was the first step to control spirit magic. Take deep breaths from your diaphragm, and you'll also draw small amounts of world energy. After you inhale, contract your lower muscles, so you'll hold your breath and the energy as well. Before exhaling, try to feel the excess of mana that's in your body. Once you manage to do it, you have to focus on the world energy getting in and out of your body with every breath. At that point, all you have to do is to use your core to draw in and absorb great amounts of world energy instead of small bits. Solus used air magic to speak while showing Floria the correct breathing rhythm. Chapter 1046 Towers and Effects Part 2. With Floria's keen mana perception and 2 excellent teachers, It took her less than an hour to master both invigoration and accumulation. Now use invigoration to study your own body and mana flow. Sola said, avoid using accumulation until your body doesn't stabilize, otherwise you'll risk a core break. Floria gulped at the idea and did as instructed. This is the hard part. Open your eyes, but keep studying your mana core while you also focus on the outside world. Tista put a small stone right in front of Floria's legs. Focus on the pebble and will for it to float. At first, all Floria managed to do was to squint her eyes and frown. With each failed attempt, her frustration grew until she gave up in a fit of rage and the pebble reached for the ceiling. Did I do that? Floria had just perceived a tendril of mana coming from her core, lashing like a whip and sending the stone flying. Yes, you did. Solas pointed her finger at a small burn mark on the floor where the whip had hit. Do that again, but this time do not affect your surroundings. Solas placed a fistful of sand in front of Floria and the pebble on top of it. Once you manage to move the pebble without messing with the sand, you're good to go. Between her mana perception, the ability to see the mana tendril with life vision, and a few pointers, Floria needed only a few attempts to succeed. She then learned how to move more pebbles at the same time and kept practicing until she was capable of applying spirit magic to her swordplay. In a matter of a few hours, her estoc, Reaver, danced in the air with the same grace and speed as if it was in her hand. Good gods, this is amazing. Why did Lith never use spirit magic to fight this way? Floria panted, drenched in sweat for the constant effort despite her repeated uses of invigoration. Yet she was smiling from the bottom of her heart like it didn't happen since her military trial had begun. Floria loved magic, but between her stagnating career and having peaked the specialization she already knew, there wasn't much she could do except inventing new spells. Now, however, she felt like during her first day of the academy. For several reasons. Sola said, first, anyone who sees it will understand there's something wrong. Being awakened is a matter of secrecy. Second, a tendril of her own mana interfered with Floria's, making Reaver move as if its wielder was a drunken sailor during a storm. Floria tried to regain control of the blade, but spirit magic was very sensitive to energy signatures. Third, Solas exploited Floria's distraction to blink by her side, with a small knife aimed at her throat. Bottom line, it's not worth it. It's a flashy technique that requires too much focus and leaves you full of openings. Solas said, got it, thanks. Floria sat down on the floor, never stopping to smile. She wasn't angry with herself for her mistakes, nor with Solas for her strict teaching methods. Floria had learned from her father that only an uncaring teacher would let their student get conceited. A good teacher would point out all of the students' mistakes as well as their successes, so to increase their chances of survival on the battlefield. What's more? Floria asked. Now you take a shower, eat, and rest. Tista said, you've only recently awakened and I don't like you using invigoration so many times in a single day. Why? I only need a few breaths to be full of energy again. Floria shrugged. The more you use it, the less effective it becomes. On top of that, even if you feel fine, you still put a strain on both your body and mana core. They went through a lot and rest is an integral part of the training. Tista said, gods, you two sound like my father. Or Lith. Floria chuckled. Where do we eat? Well, you can go back to your home, to Lith's, but you might meet him and Camilla, or you could eat here with us. Sola said, meaning? Floria dabbed her sweat with a towel. When Lith is with Camilla, Solas, I, and a friend of ours have a girls' night out. You can join us. Tista said, I'll gladly take your offer. After dinner the house is empty because my parents have to go back to work. Quilla is rehearsing her speech for Faluel, and Freya is dealing with her guild. I'm not in the mood to stay alone, and I don't feel like seeing Lith. Floria replied, you seem like a wonderful woman, Solas. I now understand why you and Lith did what you did. Yet it doesn't make it easier to accept that he lied to my face for the entirety of our relationship, nor does it change the fact that he deeply hurt my feelings. By the time Lith returned to Lucia, Floria had learned the basics of true magic and had already converted some of her best spells into their true magic form. Weaving runes with her mind was easier than using words and hand signs, but it was still a new world for her. To make matters worse, she had to convert her entire grimoire, and it amounted to hundreds of spells. A few days were barely enough to get used to casting the spells that were her bread and butter with true magic. "How are you feeling?" Lith asked. "Fine, thanks. I can almost move with the same grace I had before awakening, and I no longer crush everything I touch." She tried to smile, but it came out forced, just like she couldn't hide the edge in her voice. "There's no need to pretend that you like me. I knew this might happen when I revealed to you Solus's existence. Yet I prefer a Mogre where you're alive and hate me to a world where you died loving me." Litha's words were akin to a punch in the heart to Floria. Her messed-up feelings could only get worse by hearing how deep his affection for her was. She opened and closed her mouth a few times, but no voice came out. The arrival of her sisters put an end to her impression of a goldfish. "Now that you are all here, a few words before meeting Faluel." Lith looked them in the eyes one at a time, to make sure they understood how serious he was. "Faluel the Hydra is not only the kindest awakened I've ever met, but she's also incredibly strong and the worthy heir of the Hydra bloodline legacy. Millennia of knowledge rest upon her shoulders, so whatever you want to say to her, always be respectful. No matter how harmless she looks, she could kill us all in the blink of an eye if she wanted to. None of us is entitled to anything. She's going to teach me, Floria, and Solus only out of the goodness of her heart. She owes us nothing, so before you speak, remember that you are asking for a favor. Sass and arrogance will bring you nowhere, because you have nothing she wants." "Thanks, Captain Obvious." Quilla attempted to joke, but her voice came out stiff. She had planned her speech as if she was addressing another academic. When confronting old coots, she employed confidence and grit, whereas based on Litha's words, dealing with the Hydra required to treat her akin to the royals. Chapter 1047 Harbingers Part 1. Lith led them to the Hydra's lair, and then used the magical doorbell to announce their presence. "Wow, to what do I owe such a crowd in my humble abode?" Faluel had such a radiant smile that it left the earnest sisters speechless. Faluel now looked like a young woman in her mid-20s, about 1.7 meters, 5 feet 7 inches tall. Her face had an oval shape, with rainbow-colored eyes and long hair that framed her fine features. Unlike a normal woman, her hair wasn't of a regular color with streaks related to the element she was more attuned with, but bore the 6 colors of the elements plus the emerald green of mana. She was wearing a light green shirt that left her arms exposed and tight pants that Lith could swear were jeans. Her legs were shorter than Floria's, she was less curvy than Freya, and her face didn't look as chiseled as Tista's. Yet she could be easily called a perfectly imperfect beauty. The grace with which her slender body moved along with the warmth of her voice emphasized Faluel as a whole, making the final result much more stunning than the sum of the single parts. Even those who, like the Ernest sisters, had met Tyrus multiple times at the royal court were stunned by Faluel's appearance. Compared to the Hydra, Constable Griffin had the countenance of a farmer, whereas the Ernest felt like monkeys trying to imitate human behavior. "Is there something wrong with my attire?" Faluel asked Lith, who seemed to be the only one not staring at her with a dumb expression and an agape mouth. "You look amazing like always, Professor Faluel." Lith gave her a small bow. "Indeed," Solus said. "I apologize for keeping my ring form, but taking humanoid appearance drains my energy, so I'll do it only if strictly necessary." "Thanks for letting me know, Solus. I'll keep it in mind while planning your lessons," Faluel said. "How could you not mention us, that Faluel? I mean, Professor Faluel is so lovely." Freya was the first to recover, yet her own words made her feel like she had gone down another step on the evolutionary ladder. More importantly, how can Camilla not die with envy and jealousy knowing you spend so much time with her? Faluel giggled at those heartfelt compliments, but said nothing, waiting for Litha's reply. "Whenever I introduce you, my sister, or anyone else for that matter, I find beyond rude pointing out their attractiveness. It would make me appear as a pervert and even a creep in Tista's case. As for Camilla, she trusts me, that's how." Lith said. "Well said. Now, unless someone wants to ask me out, I'd like to know who these 3 young ladies are." Faluel said. "Professor Faluel, they are respectively Floria, Freya, and Quilla Ernest. You should remember Quilla from your meeting during Rena's pregnancy." Lith said. "I certainly do." Faluel nodded while recognizing Quilla. "Quilla and Freya have a favor to ask you." Lith said. "Then please be quick. You're a bit early, but I plan on starting my lesson as soon as all my students are here. Faluel said. Professor Faluel. Quilla gave her a curtsy, but the Hydra stopped her. Just Faluel will do. Let's also skip the pleasantries. There is no relationship between us nor appearances to keep up. I prefer blunt people to flatterers. Then I'll get straight to the point. Faluel, I would like to join your class and receive your teachings along with my friends. Quilla gave her a small bow. No matter what Faluel said, doing any less would make Quilla feel like a small child throwing a tantrum to get a new toy. Simple and direct. I love it. Yet your execution fails to meet a crucial requirement. Why exactly should I agree to your request? I know and respect Lith. He and Solus put their lives in my hands many times, demonstrating a trust I'm more than happy to return. You, however, I barely remember your name. No matter how politely you present your request, it remains unreasonable. Faluel said. But my sister. According to Awaken's customs, Floria is Lith's responsibility for the next 100 years as if she is his daughter, wife, apprentice, or servant. I don't care about the nature of their relationship. That's something for them to decide. Faluel cut her short, giving Floria's heart the second shock of the day. In turn, Lith is my apprentice and my responsibility. It's up to him to make sure that Floria doesn't betray my trust or pay the consequences. Any more arguments? I'm a brilliant mage. People call me a genius, but I never felt it as an appropriate title. I'm capable of doing this. Quilla conjured a complex hologram that was a scale model of the Hydra's lair. And this. She took out a potion and absorbed its contents through the skin in front of Faluel's surprised eyes. I have yet to share any of this with anyone. I created those techniques myself, as a fake mage barely 18 years of age. Imagine what I could do with proper guidance. Quilla took a pause to let Faluel ponder her words. I'm willing to teach you everything I know, to share with you all of my personal spells in exchange for your help. Seeing that the Hydra seemed hesitant, Quilla raised the ante. Lith, did you teach her how to make holograms? Faluel said. No. She learned it by herself in less than a year after seeing me do it in Kulla. Is she trustworthy? I've put my sister's life in her hands just like I put mine several times. Lith replied. Then I accept, but there are conditions. First, you'll give me full access to your grimoire as you promised. Second, as long as you live, whatever you develop from my teachings, any new discovery you make, you'll share it with me and only me. You're forbidden to teach even Lith or your sisters without my consent. Third, even after you are done here, whenever I'll require your help, I expect you to answer my call without asking for anything in return. Whatever height you reach in life, it will be because of me. Your debt will not be something easily repaid. Last, but not least, fail to comply with any of those conditions, and I will kill you. Do you accept my terms? Faluel said. Yes. Quilla swallowed a lump of saliva. I've already quit my role as assistant professor at the White Griffin Academy, so I'm ready to begin at any time, Faluel. Master Faluel or Professor will do. Feel free to take your pick, but don't forget who holds the leash. Faluel said. What about you, Freya? I'm here for the same reason. I want to learn from you. Freya could barely hold the Hydra's steel gaze. You? Faluel sniffed at her clothes like a predator. You're no forge master nor healer. What could I possibly teach you? And more importantly, what would I gain from it? I am a healer. Freya felt insulted at those words. I'm not an awakened like Lith nor a genius like Quilla, but I mastered all the light magic known to man. My drive is not knowledge, so I had no reason to pursue research in the body sculpting field, just like Lith did. Chapter 1048 Harbingers Part 2. I need you because I'm lost. There are countless places and jobs on Mogar, yet not a single one where I fit. I want to find my place in this world, but I feel like I've hit a wall that I can't overcome alone. I'm one of the few dimensional mages of the kingdom. Freya performed her dimensional ruler spell and showed Faluel its prowess. I'm willing to take my sister's same oath, teach you every one of my secrets, and share with you what I'll discover in the future. I'm even willing to become your harbinger. Her offer made Faluel's stone face crumble and her eyes open wide. While Quilla had practiced her light mastery non-stop during the last few days to impress the Hydra, Freya had studied everything about dragons and lesser dragons the Urna's library had to offer. Once again, I'm the vaster of our group. To not be left behind, I can't let pride burden me. I must risk it all. She thought, "Your offer is quite alluring. No one ever offered to become the harbinger of a lesser dragon. Having one would make me the first of my kind and an object of envy of my peers. But do you realize the implications of your offer, child?" Faluel said. The children of the Guardians had many unique abilities that other Emperor beasts didn't possess. They would live over 1,000 years even without awakening. They possessed incredibly powerful bodies, and their mana core would never stop developing over time. Yet long lives were also bound to be filled with loneliness and betrayal. Those weaker than them would covet their power, while those stronger would live in fear that once a Guardian's child achieved awakening, they would be unstoppable. Dragons, phoenixes, griffins, and even their lesser cousins could bestow part of their essence to a member of any other race that didn't share Guardian's blood and turn them in their harbinger. This way, the Guardian's children could secure their lover, obtain a lifelong friend, or simply an emissary in the outside world to deal with their business and properties without ever being forced to leave the safety of their homes. It was a master-servant relationship that could be broken only with the death of either of them, and it had several implications. The harbinger would be granted a lifespan similar to that of their master, their body enhanced by the Guardian's blood, and they would obtain knowledge and equipment in exchange for their lifelong servitude. The bond created by the ritual was so strong that they could always find each other and open a mind link, no matter the distance. All of this, however, came at a price. The harbinger could never disobey their master because their bodies wouldn't be completely their own anymore, and if angered, the master could seal the harbinger's mana core as long as they wanted. In the case the master died, the harbinger would immediately follow, whereas a harbinger's death would only cause temporary pain to their master. On top of that, because of the physical and spiritual bond they shared, the Emperor Beast could read the mind of their harbinger at will. A harbinger couldn't keep any secret from their master, and the moment doubt or treachery seeped their mind, they would be immediately killed. On the other hand, their bond wasn't a slave ring. The harbinger couldn't disobey a direct order, but could work around them and find loopholes to make a mission fail or information leak. To make matters worse for the master, they could only have a single harbinger at a time. More would weaken them and permanently reduce their prowess. Also, in case the harbinger died a violent death, their master would experience the same anguish through their bond, receiving a backlash that could take months to recover. A disgruntled harbinger could kill themselves when their master was engaged in battle to ensure their defeat, just like enemies could keep them prisoners and exploit the weakness the Guardian's child had created at will. Due to the powerful bond the ritual created, very few creatures sought to be a harbinger, and only a handful of them succeeded. Moreover, the benefits one would gain from a lesser species couldn't compare with those from the pure bloodline of a guardian. Freya's pledge was akin to becoming the loyal servant of a second-rate kingdom until the moment of her death, giving the Hydra the right to decide about both her love and social life. Becoming a harbinger meant losing her privacy and part of her free will. "I do," Freya replied. "I'm already 21 years old, yet I never had a significant other, only flings and shallow relationships. I'm not going to inherit the Urna's household, so there are no blood ties to stop me. I've got no dreams nor purpose in life. While my siblings followed their ambitions, I just stumbled around while looking for a place to call my own. Now I discovered that my best friend is some kind of demon dragon. My sister Floria will follow him for at least 100 years, and my sister Quilla is so amazing that she impressed you. I'm tired of being powerless every time dimensional magic gets sealed. Tired of being left behind by my friends. Without them, I amount to nothing. Please, allow me to follow them on their journey. At this point, I don't care about being relegated to a secondary role anymore." Freya kneeled in front of Faluel. 21 years? You're barely a child, and your words sound more born out of desperation rather than resolution. Faluel replied, "Being my harbinger is far from a secondary role, as you call it, which further shows how lacking you are for the position. Maybe today you're sure of your choice, but what about tomorrow? If I accept, you would have a long future ahead, and I can't risk you losing your motivation the moment you break up with your friends or realize that you don't like being a harbinger." "It's a no, then." Freya slouched her shoulders, avoiding the gazes of her sisters and Lith. They had listened many times to her rants about being the vaster of the group and wanting to be the best at something, but they had never expected Freya to be so miserable about her life. She always avoided drowning in self-pity, but those last few days had been terrible for her. Seeing Lith wipe out 2 armies, Baba Yaga having traveled Mogr for Floria, and the destruction of the Crystal Shield Guild had broken her spirit. All the time and effort Freya had invested in her guild was gone. Half of its members were dead, and the survivors were currently under investigation because suspected of having deserted during the assault. Even if Lith came forward to clean their name and explained why so many of them had survived while all the others had died, the Crystal Shield Guild was done for. The stigma of cowardice would haunt them for a long time, if not forever, and Freya didn't have the strength to start over from scratch. She would have to rebuild the guild's reputation, hire new members to replace the fallen, and train them after making sure they were trustworthy. Everything she had built during the last few years had crumbled, and all her sacrifices had gone to waste. Floria was in her same boat, but at least she had something to look forward to. Chapter 1049 Gods and Guardians Part 1. I never said no. Faluel shook her head. Let's call it a maybe. I'll take you in and treat you as my harbinger, but I'll not perform the ritual. I expect loyalty and sincerity from you. Consider it probation. You can quit, and I can kick you out anytime. Yet beware. If by the time I make my decision you have yet to show the proper resolve a harbinger requires, I might be forced to kill you. I can't give off my secrets for free, so the more you learn from me, the greater the danger you are in. Thank you, Faluel. I will not let you down. Freya gave her a deep bow, smiling from ear to ear. Don't thank me, thank Lith. I gave a lot of thought to the speech he gave in front of the council, and I think he is right. They can't blame him for finding talented people. If the council really wants to widen the gap with fake mages, we Awakened need to learn how to work together as our competition does instead of quarreling all the time. Faluel said while the Ernest sisters and Solus stared at Lith. Consider my humble abode as an Awakened academy, but with more strict rules and no sex. Fail me and you get expelled, killed, or worse. We'll work day and night because I've more important things to do than waste years teaching you lot. The non-awakened must work until they faint, while the awakened must use invigoration until it stops working. Only then will you be allowed to take a break. Are we clear? Faluel's words made them all swallow a lump of saliva. More than an academy, it sounded like a dignified prison camp. Am I interrupting something? Naurin asked. Child, you're on time, which means you're late. Always arrive early in sign of respect for my time, got it? Faluel said. Yes, sorry, Master Faluel. He gave her a deep bow. What do you mean, Master Faluel? Lith asked. Just like your human friend here, Naurin was impressed by my procedure to save Rena's child and has offered me a deal. He'll teach me light mastery, and in exchange, I'll teach him healing magic. As simple as that, Faluel said. Now, before we start, let me evaluate your level so that I can tailor-fit your individual lessons. The Hydra used invigoration on one of them at a time, taking a few notes when necessary. Naurin, your 2 cores grant you double the mana, but you can only use 1 life force at a time. To avoid getting injured during your apprenticeship, you must train both your bodies and switch between them often, otherwise the mana flow might kill you. The Razar looked at his thin limbs in embarrassment. Having the body of an emperor beast had always made physical exercise look like a waste of time to him. Floria, I have no idea how Lith managed to make you survive awakening, but your body is a mess. It was refined from the red core to the blue in one go, making it highly unstable. The process didn't give your body the time to adapt to your new mana flow. You are akin to a weapon that has been forged, but it's still being tempered. Put too much strain on it, and the weapon will break. I forbid you to use any breathing technique until I say otherwise. I'll treat you as a non-awakened and have you follow their same schedule. Faluel said. What about me? I've got 2 bodies and I've recently experienced a breakthrough as well. Lith asked. You're a completely different case. Your 2 bodies are like 2 sides of the same coin. You can't train one without training the other. Naurin, on the other hand, has 2 bodies and 2 cores because he's 2 different creatures at the same time. On top of that, with your perfect body refinement, the moment your core recovered from the breakthrough, so did your physique. You might as well achieve a purple core right now if it was possible, but that's a story for another day. A clap of her hands made 6 chairs and desks appear. 6? What about Protector? Lith asked. Having a family of 4 and a newborn at that requires time and sustenance. With Naurin here, He's forced to either help his wife or work for money. Keeping two houses at the same time costs a pretty coin. Unlike you, he is in no rush. He can join us anytime the moment a non-awakened is too tired to keep up, Faluel said. Besides, since you are all painfully ignorant in the ways of Mogur, today I'll teach you things that are considered common sense in the awakened community. Solus, at your desk. I don't want Lith cheating and relying on your memory. If I see a mind link, I'll kick both your asses. Solus attempted to protest, but Faluel's glare scared her too much. Solus was so used to the Hydra's gentle nature that her smallest frown looked utterly terrifying. Faluel then explained to her students about the Awakened Council, how it worked, and its laws. At first, only self-awakened existed, and the death of a single one of them meant losing an amount of knowledge that is irrelevant by modern standards, but was priceless millennia ago. Also, awakened have always been few in numbers, making them torn between the need to hide their nature and the natural desire for company, be it platonic or otherwise. The council was created as a place to exchange knowledge, seek for heirs for an awakened's legacy, and to protect ourselves from being exploited by the other races. Only over time, it became our self-governing unit tasked with enforcing our laws. Why awakened didn't conquer Mogur or simply rule their own country? Wouldn't it allow them to live safely, protected by their own army? Floria asked. Conquer Mogur? Faluel laughed at the idea. To what end? You've seen how hard it is to control a group of a few people. Do you think you could rule a country and develop your magic? Faluel asked, obtaining a no as a reply. You can't do everything at the same time. No one can. Awaken love magic because it's the only power you can trust, and because effort will never betray you. A king, on the other hand, has to be wary of all his high officials and has to make sure that the very power he builds isn't used against him. Even if awakened are powerful, we still need food, clothes, and ingredients. To acquire them, we need to move, but outside of our homes, we are vulnerable. Without the council, naturally powerful races like emperor beasts or the undead could easily overpower one of us once they discover our location and extort the secret of awakening. An awakened king would be nothing but a target, and even putting a strawman creates a weakness that can be exploited. That's why only guardians can do such a thing. After that, she explained to them the existence of guardians, their identity, and their role. Royal Constable Tyrus Griffin is a guardian. Except for Lith and Solus, everyone was flabbergasted. The Erna's sisters because they knew her, and Naurin because he found their reaction idiotic. He had been taught as a child that a guardian could look like however they wanted, just like any powerful mage. Only idiots would judge a book from its cover. Chapter 1050 Gods and Guardians Part 2. This doesn't make sense. Quilla said. If guardians really are this powerful, why do they let so many bad things happen? Like the slave collar system that plagued the Gorgon Empire for decades, or Balkir's annual culling. How can they just sit there without doing anything? That's a very common misconception. No matter their race, whenever people learn about guardians, they consider them some kind of benevolent god, tasked with taking care of them. Guardians are not gods and couldn't care less about single individuals. They are forces of nature, incarnations of Mogur's will and agenda, whatever that is. Would you call a tornado cruel? Or the rain heartless because after irrigating the fields, it makes rivers flood? Or the summer heat unfair? No, and the same applies to guardians. Faluel said. What about the slave collars? Thousands lived and died as cattle for decades, yet Ligane could have put an end to it with a snap of his fingers, just like Tyrus could have killed Balkir. Floria said. To what end exactly? You are talking in hindsight. Back then, people believed otherwise. Faluel spoke with a calm and sweet voice, like a mother explaining to her children why they shouldn't touch embers. At a wave of her hand, pages of ancient chronicles of the Gorgon Empire appeared on each desk for them to read. According to history books, the slave collar period was considered by those who lived it as a golden age. Everyone would live longer and prosper thanks to mages providing the people of the Gorgon Empire, not only the nobles, with everything they might need. Dimensional magic allowed anyone to travel freely without gates. Weather magic made every harvest bountiful, and healing magic would keep everyone healthy. In those books, the enslaved mages were praised for their sacrifice, and the action of putting a collar at their necks was justified by the greater good. Unlike nobles, free mages were hard to kill, and their talent was considered an unfair advantage by those incapable of using magic. One of them could kill hundreds of innocents, so the people from the Gorgon Empire considered it right to sacrifice the freedom of the few for the needs of the many. This is outrageous bullshit. Lith said, that's what history taught us. Faluel said, today, Ligane is considered a heartless monster for abandoning his people, but thanks to that, mages learned how to fend for themselves. Nobility has been eradicated in the Empire, which is now the most magically advanced country. What if he intervened back then? The people that wrote the books you are reading would have called him a heartless monster and a tyrant for taking away their free will. They would have also demanded from him to provide them with an alternative means to prosper since, in their eyes, he was standing in the path of their progress. Moreover, the mages would have become conceited and feel entitled to his protection. The same can be said for Balkir. He indeed killed many, but he was born out of a corrupt system that created countless victims. Lith didn't become one of them only thanks to Balkir setting an example. Now the academy system is being reformed. Mages are allowed to reach nobility based on their merits without their humble origins being used as an excuse to undermine their achievements. Had Tyrus killed him, people like Quilla and Lith would have had a hard time to enroll in an academy, let alone graduate. They would have become the new Balkirs, if not worse. Lith and Quilla remembered all too well the daily hazing and badmouthing they had suffered during their academy years. And that was with Linjos doing his best to protect them and with the law by their side. Lith thought back at Nana and at how her life had been destroyed by envious nobles despite her great talent. What about the Blood Desert? Naurin asked. It's the Gorgon Empire's polar opposite. Salark reigns supreme. Her word is the law. Her people thrive, and the country is at peace ever since she took its reins for herself. Yet she is considered a heartless monster as well. Faluel chuckled. What? Why? Didn't you just say that people thrive? Freya was flabbergasted. Yes, but no opinion matters except her own. In the desert, either you submit or die. All the tribes that she subjugated to unify the desert, all those who would like to try different paths to that she chose, hate her guts. As you can see, no matter what you do, you will be hated. Faluel said, where does that leave our kingdom? Floria asked. Right in the middle. Tyrus created the Griffin Kingdom, showing to all other people on the Garland continent what could be achieved by working together under a just ruler. The Gorgon Empire and Blood Desert just followed her lead. You said that each guardian has a role and that the Garland continent has 3 of them. What do they do exactly? Quilla asked. Ligane, Tyrus, and Salark are among the first 6 guardians, who were once mistaken for gods. Even before they became guardians, Ligane dedicated his life to amassing knowledge, Tyrus to nurture talent, and Salark to put into practice all magical discoveries. They are respectively considered the wisest, the kindest, and the strongest guardian. Faluel said, the kindest? Are you saying that we are stuck with the most useless guardian? Lith said with a sneer. Quite the contrary. Faluel shook her head. Where do you think the knowledge Ligane hoards and Salark uses come from? It's only because of Tyrus that the Griffin Kingdom is at peace ever since its foundation. She created the academies, giving everyone the right to learn magic. It was Tyrus who taught Lakra Silverwing magic, just like Ligane did with the Magic Empress, Milea Janice, yet the two couldn't be more different. While Milea is just an excellent leader for her people and the champion of the Gorgon Empire, Magus Silverwing invented all the specializations as you know them, and she shared them with the entirety of Mogar. The Empire, the Desert, even the Giera continent, they all learned Tier 4 and 5 magic from her, yet her knowledge came from Tyrus. Our guardian helped Silverwing to spread her teachings, and everyone is better for it. Fake mages became capable of harnessing the power that before only Awakened had, and even though the Council will never admit it, Silverwing's teachings helped us to develop as well. Before, you had to awaken someone of your bloodline, hoping they wouldn't get drunk with power and try to kill you the moment they became powerful enough or age made you weak. Now, instead, we can pick our heirs even among fake mages after judging what they do with their talents. Emperor beasts and fae who fail to be awakened from their parents and to inherit their legacies disguise themselves as humans to enroll in the 6 great academies. It's the only way they have to learn powerful magic. On top of that, we learned a lot from fake mages, and they pushed us to improve instead of becoming complacent. Faluel said. Would it surprise you to know that when Tyrus came to spectate your attempt to save Protector's life, Scarlet the Scorpicore bowed to her, whereas Scarlet had no qualms to fight Salark to fulfill her quest for revenge against Balkia? Why do you think all other gods have been forgotten, yet all races keep invoking Tyrus's name when they pray to the Great Mother?